We absolutely love that music. It's cracking bit of music.
You guys actually see me doing air guitar while like.
Yeah, I was going for it.
Just like, proper going. It's the best way. It's the best way to start a pod. So yeah, good evening, everyone. Thank you again for joining us on a wonderful Wednesday evening to talk about what a whirlwind of women's football, the good, the bad, the awfully muddy, and some very special news for the podcast too. Now we've got some familiar faces joining us, and one we can't wait to welcome back. Adam, lovely to see you. How are you doing?
I'm knackered, tired. It's been for those who don't know, I'm freshly off the plane, back from Madrid, or Muddrid as it's been known by some of the other Arsenal fans. It was a bit of a mud bath, bit of a stormy experience, a lot of water and a lot of disappointment and a lot of mud. So looking forward to cleaning myself off and airing my views on the matter tonight.
Exactly, and we're gonna talk all about it. Don't you worry, Adam. And Chloe, good to see you. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing okay. Just got the game on in the background at the moment.
I was going to say, everyone's got the game on. So people in the chat, we know you're so on it. So yeah, if anything happens, do let us know. But it's still 0-0. And Adam's got a very special system for us. If there is a goal, he's going to do this. So we know we've been alerted. And then we'll come to him.
So it's our version of the I'm sorry I haven't a clue laser display grid for those of you who know the show.
But it's even better because it's on the Wednesday pod. And Paul, of course, lovely as always. How are you?
Not too bad. I'm really annoyed I didn't come up with Madrid. That is an amazing one.
I didn't either. Hats off to, I saw it in my Insta, hats off to Art of the Arsenal, who do those like cartoony Arsenal stuff. It was on their post, so hats off to them. But I saw that and I thought, yeah, that's brilliant.
I was going to say, rainy, muddy and disappointing. They want women's football to be like Glastonbury, don't they?
Well, can't argue with that.
That is true. That is very, very true. But yeah, don't worry. We've got lots of pitch talk coming up. Good evening to everyone chatting. I mean, Emma, you were here first this evening. She says evening all. Matthew says evening, guys. Mark says good evening. We've also got a welcome back for you, Adam. Hang on. So many people talking. So many people. Yeah. Chris is in the chat saying welcome back to the podcast, Adam. And yet, hey, Sean's having a Chinese. Fantastic. I think Chinese all round is what we need one week. And good evening from the Mr. Arsenal podcast as well. Good evening, good evening. Right then. Now, what we're going to do, a bit of a running order for this evening. We're going to start some latest news. Then we're going to start with the championship first, mix it up. Then we've got a little bit more news that we can't wait to talk about. Something very special indeed coming up. We have been teasing it. And then, of course, we'll finish with our WSL and a bit of European roundup news as well. So let's start then. So the NWSL started this weekend. We looked at our favourite jerseys last week. There were 3 wins, 3 draws, but Orlando Pride, I don't know if anyone else saw that result, a massive 6-0 win over Chicago Stars. And, of course, Barbara Banda with a brace. And we'll come back to why we're going to talk about her and why she's so phenomenal in a moment as well. Now, it's the second evening of the Women's Champions League action this evening. Wolfsburg versus Barcelona kicked off earlier, and that ended 3-1 to Barcelona. And Man City and Chelsea was a 4-1.
It was a late one. The Sydney, the young Swiss player, top bin.
Oh, of course,
right at the end. Yeah, superb strikes. It was right at the end of the game. So, yeah, 4-1.
Yes, because I saw her coming on. She came on for Pateas, didn't she?
Yeah, she was late.
Right at the end. I must have just switched it over.
Yes, you must have done. Yeah, right on the end. I'm afraid. Sorry.
I was trying to show my enthusiasm for another Barca win just then.
Oh.
Hey, they unfortunately, a bit like Chelsea, they always manage it, don't they? Regardless. So
it's the Spanish league. It's a farmers' league. Spanish league.
I don't know. I tell you what,
now they play on ploughed fields.
I was going to say the state of those fields. I could probably agree with you.
Just potatoes just coming up as they're running. what it was like the other evening. But of course, yes, as we mentioned, Man City and Chelsea kicked off at 8 o'clock and is still 0-0, and we will bring you that latest news too. Now, where we're going to start, we'll start last weekend because Chelsea won their first trophy out of 4 as they were claimed the Sandwich Cup winners. However, according to Susie Rack, as everyone sent me before the show, it could then be scrapped under new restructuring. So either scrapped or restructured. So again, it's another one of those leaks coming out to see who's, what the fans actually think. And as someone else rightly said, just hold a focus group. You don't have to leak it. Just get some fans in, see what they think, and then you can go back. Now, with this final, I mean, it was neither now nor something really, was it? But Paul, it was heartbreak for Yui Hasegawa, wasn't it? At the weekend, not the way you'd want to lose/win, really, was it?
Can I just say I'm going to fanboy a bit here because I was there doing pressy stuff and hobnobbing.
Yes, tell us about that. Yeah,
it was they had Subway and catering, but none of the decent ones, so it was frankly swizzed. They didn't even have hearty Italian bread, so frankly I'm outraged. Sucked up my rear end. But the game itself, I finally got to watch Yui Hasegawa play in person, and it was even better than I hoped for. Like, completely ignoring the own goal, because obviously that was unlucky, and we'll get to that. But just the way she and Alba Fagino link up is wonderful, and should terrify opposition teams. But it was an interesting game because it was Ramirez versus Shaw for the first half, like just exchanging attacks back and forth. The early goal, Lauren James sliding a ball through Myra Ramirez with not the prettiest goal she'll ever score, because Yamashita came out, made the first save. I didn't actually see which Man City defender it hit because the press box at Pride Park is very low down. So, like, it's an interesting position to be in. Like, the trouble with press boxes, people can't get like the perfect press box because they're either really low or they're Ashton Gate. Like, there's nowhere in the middle. But it kind of snuck through. There were some tackles going in as well. Yeah. For an agricultural pitch, there were agricultural tackles going in left, right, and centre. Man City, probably the better team. Like Sonia Bonpasta afterwards was very open in saying, "We didn't really play that well as Chelsea."
Yeah.
And they had some guy. It wasn't Gareth Taylor who they had come in. I actually realised who it was this time.
Good.
I'm just in case you don't know, Adam, for context, last week I had my own very own Chris Kamara moment because I stayed off Twitter the early half of last week. So
he'd been sacked.
So I missed he'd been sacked. So there was Man City announced they'd sacked Gareth Taylor, and I literally sat there and went, "Sorry, what?"
Yeah. I mean, I was shocked because it's the right decision, but I didn't think it had the nerve to pull the plug because, quite frankly, I think he should have been binned off 2 seasons ago. But that's just my opinion. But yeah, Nick Cushing's back in now, so again, they've got no imagination. We'll just give it to the previous guy.
I was very impressed with Nick Cushing though. He's got, because obviously when you see him on TV, you have an idea around them, and Gareth Taylor looked a bit shit middle manager every time he was on. Like, just, he was just there. He was the boss who everybody secretly dislikes. Like,
wasn't that secret though, was it?
It wasn't.
Yeah.
Okay.
No.
The amount of Instagram posts we had.
Words Chloe Kelly spring to mind.
Okay. Yeah, but you can kind of see why he was. He was like, he was like Mark Skinner with slightly better hidden objectionableness. Like, but Nick Cushing came in and the man, ironically for a sub cup, dominates a room. Like he kind of came in, and he was very, very personable, and he was very, very much bigging up his players. He gave me a very Matt Beard vibe. As someone who's not really experienced him in person before, he gave me a very Matt Beard vibe. He was very open to questions as well, because he was challenged about his substitutions, which seemed to be a bit late, because Alba Fajina's goal was fantastic, obviously. A katana blade of a strike. And then, obviously, we saw Hasegawa's own goal, which we won't talk about too much, because everyone has already said how sad Yui looked.
It was just when she dropped to her knees, and you just thought, oh, Yui. She'd done so well that game, and just for it to be her as well.
But that's what you need, because that's another reason why I love the Japanese players, because they're so real. Like they don't have any filters on their emotions when they're happy. Like Fujino's goal, when she scored, you could see how ridiculously happy she was. And then obviously Hasegawa, and it went back in. But again, Nick Cushing was asked about that, and obviously it was, very sad for Yui. Did you say anything for her in the changing room or anything like that? And he made a point of saying, oh yeah, Yui's down. Nobody's more sad than Yui, and we want to make a point that does not reflect on her performance during the game at all. She's an incredible player. She was incredible for us, and we made a point of telling her that and saying that should be the case. And then Sonia Bonpasta came in, and that woman has an aura. Like, people talk about Emma Hayes' aura, but she just walks into the room and you can feel the room hanging off her every word.
Yeah.
Like, it's very... And again, certain other managers in the WSL don't really have that. They're perfectly personable, but they don't really have that. Like, Jonas Eidevall was really interesting to listen to when he wasn't talking about Arsenal. Like, for his punditry for the Euros, he was really, really...
He was very good, yeah. I was impressed, yeah.
But whenever he was talking about Arsenal, he kind of shut that away and went fairly corporate. But Sonia Bonpasta's just... But what struck me the most was when Nick Cushing was asked about psychologicalness for things like tonight. And, his instant response was, to be honest, I didn't see anything that didn't make me think we couldn't beat them.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the thing with Chelsea is you always think, we could beat them, because they always seem beatable. But the whole season I think, we can get them, or any team could get them. But then they somehow like squirm out of your grip at the last minute, sort of like a typical sort of Bond villain. They sort of just like the last minute, I escaped at the last minute on my jetpack and away, and they got 3 points. So how they wriggled their way out of that one? And yeah, like as you said, the Sub Cup, Man City had some good moments, got the equaliser. What were Chelsea's goals? Lucky deflection and an own goal. Is there nothing more Chelsea coded than that in getting the win? So it's just one of those. No offense, Chloe, but it's just like It's like spoiled again.
The thing is, Chelsea just win. Chelsea are now very much. It doesn't matter how they win.
Yeah,
they just win, and like. I don't think there's such a thing as bollocks like winners' DNA. Like, genuinely, like you get Chelsea fans talk about winners' DNA and mentality monsters and all that shite. That is not a thing. I refuse to believe anything's like intangibles, but I think that Chelsea are very, very good at staying in games. Like you say. Even when they're not very good, they're very good at staying in games, and they have that quality that certain other teams maybe don't.
Yeah, even when they're not playing their prettiest football and they're just getting it done, you never think they're out. Like, there's never a time when they've looked defeated that I can think of.
The last time I think I saw Chelsea properly defeated in a game
Mm.
was when we won. And sorry, Chloe, when we won 4-1 at Emirates Stadium, when it was so comprehensive. But I haven't seen Chelsea. I mean, even at the Liverpool game, they were in it right until the end. Like this is last season. I've never seen since that Emirates Stadium game. I've not seen Chelsea comprehensively like taken apart at the level again. They are just within the game until the 90th minute, till the added time. The Everton home game, I think it was a few weekends ago when it went. I think it was 2-1. Was it Everton? Was it 2-1 at the end? I think it was an injury time winner. There's been a lot of those games.
2-1 on Friday.
Yeah, so there's been a lot of those games where Chelsea have just pulled out the fire because they've got the firepower, they've got the winning, whatever you may think. Well, there is winning experience and there is the never say die attitude, and the more that gets ingrained into, the more that you just, as a Chelsea player, you know that you're going to get that winning chance in the 93rd minute, 95th minute, because you've had it so many times and it becomes routine. And yeah, it's again, with the final, I wasn't surprised that Chelsea won it, and I wasn't surprised in the way Chelsea won it because it's just so Chelsea. And when they were in those last few minutes, I had no doubt that Man City weren't going to get another equaliser. That was it. The time, even though there's time left on the clock, the game was over. There was no way Chelsea were going to chuck that, and they saw it out as Chelsea do. And it's another after 2 blanks in a row, they've got the mitts on the trophy once again.
And Matthew makes a good point as well, where he says, again, people saying the trophy celebrations were lame. It was weird. It was like they were just like, yeah, we kind of have to celebrate this one, but this isn't the one we want.
Yeah, it's kind of like, we'll celebrate because we've won it, and it's one out of 4. Tick off the list. But actually,
it's like this isn't even a dress rehearsal for the celebration. This is like the undercard of the undercard. This is
just we've won it because we were in the competition. We won it. Yeah, fine.
If we don't want to win this, we've won this, but if we didn't win it, we just get up and go again. We're not that bothered.
Yeah, and they won again. Nothing much to write home about in that match, to be honest. However, the one thing that people were talking about was the state of the pitch, and from one awful pitch to another, Adam, we're coming to you because the Champions League last night.
Where do we begin?
I know. So there were 2 games on. So 2 games on tonight, 2 games on last night, and Bayern lost 2-0 at home to Lyon, and Arsenal unfortunately lost away to Real Madrid. Now, Adam, you were there.
Yes, I was.
So can you kind of take us through it? Because a lot of people are going, oh, stop blaming the pitch for losing.
Well, yes.
That's not what's happening, is it?
It's not as simple as that. And yeah, because there's 2 things. It's firstly, yes, okay, the pitch is terrible, but I also do blame Arsenal as well. It is not fully the pitch. It is also not fully Arsenal. As I always say, big failures and defeats, there's multitude of factors. It is never the one. And I don't like making excuses. So even though the chat may think I am, and by all means go for it. Certainly I was there, traveled down the night before, fly over the day before, walked around Madrid, torrential rain all day. Just we went, there's a Legends museum in the heart of Madrid. We did that instead, just to get indoors and stay dry. But it was raining all day. Got to the pitch, and my friend I was with at the time before we got there was actually concerned that maybe could the game even go ahead. That's because we weren't playing in the Bernabeu. He'd been on a tour to the Bernabeu, and there has been discourse about should the Bernabeu be used. And he's actually told me that the Bernabeu couldn't be used anyway because they were actually doing work on the pitch.
Okay.
So it wasn't. I mean, although he did say even in that state, it would probably been a better state than the one we had up at the Alfredo Training Centre, whatever it's called. And certainly we got up there, and you could see that it was in serious trouble when we walked in, and people were comparing it, saying if this was a cricket match, it'd be called off. It was they had people out with the forks trying to scrape the water off, and you just looked at it and just think this is just another mud bath. And the frustrating thing for an Arsenal fan is, like, if this was like a one-off moment, we've had a one-off game where the pitch's been rubbish, you go fair enough. But the problem is Meadow Park has turned into another mud bath of its own right. Not quite to this extent. This is probably the worst we've had. All the Meadow Park games we've had, and the results have gone down the Swanee recently with the FA Cup and the League Cup, and then obviously this game on top. And the problem is with Arsenal at the moment is that just we cannot adapt to negative conditions. We have to be, for lack of a better term, pitch perfect. And we sort of saw that at Wharton Hall Park when we beat Everton 3-1. The pitch was a decent state and we played good football and we won 3-1. Great. But we can't do it. We can't adapt to the situation. And the other games where we have won in a similar situation, I think Bayern Munich, when again torrential rain, Meadow Park, it was awful conditions, and it just became a ping pong basketball game, chaos, errors, and we got a bit lucky. I think the keeper had a bit of a howler, and we got a late penalty, and they scored an own goal. So, we won the bounce of the ball in that sense. And then the West Ham game, which again, if you watch that game, just bonkers. Just 3-1 down, 4-3 up, just chaos everywhere, much like this pod. But this one was very much the other side of that coin. We didn't adapt to the conditions, and the two goals. I mean, the first goal, the Caicedo goal, if you haven't seen it, the ball bounces through Leah Williamson because Leah Williamson's misinterpreted the bounce of the ball, because on a perfect pitch, she has in her mind which way the ball was going to go. She thinks the ball is going to go X. The ball goes Y. Suddenly, it's gone through her legs, and Caicedo's through for 1-0. And you just watch the pitch just get worse and worse throughout the game. And the Real Madrid kits, I think it was just Parker Humphries made that quote, said that the Real Madrid kits would look like the Arsenal kits come the end of the game. Such was the state of the mud that was just splattered everywhere. There was a really good clip of one. I think someone tried to slide in. I think it was on Steph Catley and just got absolutely splattered. I think there's one Emily. Yeah, right off her back. Yes, I think Emily Fox sliding on her back. So just like do you remember the Sol Campbell never-ending slide tackle? England versus Croatia. It comes up all the time. It was like that. She just stayed on the bottom and just slid across the ground. It was, the pitch is unplayable, but Real Madrid found a way to play and found a way to win. We should say shout out to Leah Pols, who went off injured. Again, I think because of the pitch, and she was walking past us on the way out. She was distraught. And the problem is, it is a Champions League quarter-final. And the fact that we are not playing this game at the main stadium, and I think there was a comment made about the president, the Real Madrid president, who actually it's alleged that he said that he will only let the women's team play in the Bernabeu once they've won a Liga F title, which is just outrageous. The game should never have been played in the stadium. It should have been played in the Bernabeu. And I mean, Arsenal will be playing their game at Emirates Stadium the second leg, and that might give us a chance because we'll hopefully have a decent pitch. But for me, these games should be played at the main stadium. Hats off to Madrid. Obviously, they adapted to the conditions better. We didn't. They got the second goal. Again, that I put on us. That's defensive mistakes by us. Manu Zinsberger with straw hands, and we just backed off. We didn't engage. If it'd been 1-0, I mean, before we started the game, we looked at each other and thought, you know what? We just got to get out of here alive. Just get a 0-0. Get a 0-0 draw, or even if it's just a 1-0 defeat, just get out of there. I'm not expecting miracles. But the fact it's 2-0, and so late on, I just think, that could just be the one that just maybe makes it a bit too far. But yeah, I'm sure there are people who laugh at us and just say, you should have played better. But it's not so much a banter thing between rivals. That pitch was dangerous. It was dangerous. It stopped a good game of football happening. It's just annoying for us Arsenal fans. We've had nothing but bad pitches recently. And it's a shame, because this is meant to be the best competition, the best teams in Europe, and too many clubs aren't pulling their weight in that division. We should say, like, goal line technology wasn't in use, like things like that. Because you can. It's like, thankfully we are Arsenal. We're playing up in the main stadium. I think Wolfsburg. I think played tonight. I think they're in the main stadium. But Chelsea will play their game at Stamford Bridge against Man City. Unfortunately, Man City aren't playing at the Etihad. It's just things like that. It's just give the players the stadium and the pitches they deserve, so we can get the better product of football for a tournament, for the stage of a tournament where it should be the best football on the best possible pitches, and then you get a really good game of football, and you don't get players limping off midway through the first half. But too many clubs can't be bothered, and we are where we are.
And that's the thing. It's, if you get to this stage in the competition, and it's such a competition, and people have said, well, the men wouldn't have ever played on that pitch. You're right, because the men are in the bigger stadiums, aren't they? And you just think, what needs to change? How many more injuries? How many more, what's going to happen until someone actually on the day goes, actually, the weather's been pretty crap. What can we do? Because like you said, leading up to it, it wasn't just on the day there was like a freak torrential pour. it's been building for days, and the best grounds people in the world can only do so much against the weather. So it just needs to everyone just needs to step up, don't they? Across the board for women's football, especially at this level.
But you look at the local papers in Madrid, and what were they saying? Oh, typical English, excuses and stuff, and putting it just hand palming it, and not giving it the raising it as the issue it was. It was a disappointment, because I was looking for. I know I'd had a great time in Madrid. I should say, met some great Arsenal fans. They do exist, and we had a great time out there. Lots of numbers. We sang our hearts out. I hope those of you watching at home heard us on TV, even though we were absolutely drenched because there was no cover. We were fully exposed. All 290 of us, because they only gave us 290 fans allocation, so a pocket full. But we filled that allocation and gave it as good as we could get, even if maybe the elements and the result wasn't what we wanted. But that's football.
And that's the thing, and like you said, 2-0's it's not impossible to come back from.
No. I would say historically we've done it twice. Against Rayo Vallecano and Torres, we've come from 2-0 to win the second leg 4-1 and go through. So we can do it. So we've got to do it again.
Can we do? Yeah, 100%. And it just shows you, like we said, the state of women's football. More people actually need to care about it. And then won't have anyone saying, "Oh, it's excuses. Oh, you're making it up." Blah 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 blah. It was a fair assessment, and we. Thank you for talking us through it. For someone who was actually there, of course. So no bias, nothing, just plain. Because even girls on the ball were saying, it was horrendous conditions for the media. It was the worst stadium they'd ever been to. And you just think, that's not coming from an Arsenal fan or a Real Madrid fan or anyone. That's coming from a neutral straight down the middle going.
I was with some journalists who were in the media room as well, and they said, it was terrible the way they treated like the English press compared to the Spanish press in terms of what they were allowed. It was incredibly awkward. Speaking with some of the people who organised the fan stuff and stuff, they're saying it's been working with Villamarín, fine, Juventus, fine, but this one for some reason Real Madrid were just awkward on the pitch, off the pitch, just. And I think it goes up to the top, and the culture of that club and how it's set up, and it's how it's viewed at the top. And I said earlier, the president, I don't believe, has any interest in the women's team, and he's even said he wants to cut women's football from the league altogether, just because he knows Real Madrid is never going to beat Barcelona. And if that's the attitude, then it all trickles down. Yeah.
And that's the thing, we don't need people at the top calling the shots who have those beliefs, do we?
No.
At all. Because women's football is here to bloody stay, isn't it? And thank you to everyone letting us know that second half is underway. I believe I've just had a notification about some substitutions, so let's just bring you those. Let's have a look. Oh, there we go. Miedemar's come on the pitch as Lily Murphy comes off. So there we go. Perfect. One change in that match there. And another 45 to go. Marlon says, I think it's going to finish 0-0. Hey, if it does, then again, all to play for in that second leg as well. Right, we're going to put a pin in the news there because we've been teasing something incredibly exciting, haven't we, for the last week. Now, Paul, Chloe, you kind of know what this is. But I don't know if you've seen the video. Adam, you have no idea at all what this is, which is even better. So what I'm going to do is we've actually got two. So for the people who tune into the first half of the episode, you will get a treat to this one. And then we've got a second one for the people who join us later on in the pod, which is quite cool. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to add this, and then we'll have a little chat afterwards. So... let's go for this one.
The Solars United.
Some wonderful football here from the Solars. Yeah, if they carry on like this, they might actually win a match.
The council's closing our pitch.
What? They can't do that. What?
They said we got a month.
I just don't want this to end, Lily.
Coach, how do you know when it's time to let go?
Come on!
We don't want to lose our pitch.
No.
So we'll raise the money. I probably didn't need to stand up for that, did I?
So joining us today, we've got Sarah Herrick, who's the writer and producer of the film, and Leah Harvey, who's one of the lead actors. Welcome both.
It literally became my world, you know. I was like playing football with them twice a week, matches and training, hanging out on the weekends. And during this time, it was summer as well. So it was like barbecues, you know, going out. It was like we became a second family, and it was just so beautiful. And I think I really, and hopefully the film does this, but I really wanted to show how beautiful, not only playing football together, but it's also the community that comes with it.
So the big news was there is a fantastic new short film coming out called Soulless United. And as we saw there, it focuses on a grassroots women's football team who are struggling to save their club. Now, a lot of us who are involved with women's football, we will know that feeling very well with our grassroots clubs. And what Sarah was saying there, she really wanted to write this film to incorporate the reality of grassroots women's football, because this is the first women's football film since Bend It Like Beckham.
Yes,
okay?
that's what I was thinking of.
I was genuinely wondering if it was, because that was one of the
It is the first British one. The first British one since Bend It Like Beckham. And we all know how iconic that one was for raising the profile of the women's game. So me and Sam got the opportunity to talk to Sarah and Leah. And that interview will be out on Friday at 5:00. So if you are interested, remember to get your notifications on, and that'll be coming out very soon. But yeah, they were incredible to interview. Absolute pleasure to talk to. And yeah, it was fantastic. So yeah, if you want to hear more about that, Friday at 5:00. And we've also got another different little teaser later on in the show for everyone who sticks around, which we know you all will.
Can I just ask about that pitch actually? Because where was it? Because we could really do with that. That looked really better than the Real Madrid pitch, and certainly better than the Meadow Park one. So if they could put a word in, could we get our games played there instead? Because it looks cracking.
I was going to say, this had the Estadio di Stefano when they filmed it.
We'll pass it over. I'll get that message through. Right then. Now we've covered that, let's go on to the Championship, best league in the world. And as we can see, it was pretty much a grand slam for all of the home teams this weekend. So Paul, we're going to start with you, if that's all right. We're going to do Durham 3, Newcastle 1. And Chelsea fans will be happy because Amy Claypool with the double. But Newcastle probably should have done a lot more, shouldn't they?
Have that, Newcastle, as if FTM, if you know, you know, because the first thing about this is that it was lovely to see a team that have built the right way humble Newcastle in the north. One of the teams that have built the right way in the northeast humble Newcastle after all the mouthiness of the black and white part of northeast football. Because leading up to this game, there was all sorts of talk about how Newcastle fans hadn't been given enough tickets and how it should have been moved to a bigger stadium, and how dare they make the black and white hordes travel to Maiden Castle. Get it up, you. How are all of the goals in the first half, Emily Murphy scoring first for Newcastle. And then Amy Claypool not only making Durham fans happy, but making Chelsea fans incredibly happy with 2 goals in 3 minutes. She's some player, is Amy Claypool.
So good. So good.
Chloe's just sat there like
I know.
I've been for a while, so no.
Chloe's just there like, well, I was talking to her coach the other day, who happens to also be flipping Farmer Williams or something in classic very name drop fashion. But yeah, she's going to be a player to watch, because she started to make some waves for Lewis last season when she went on loan, but this season she's really started to make a point. So she scored twice, and then Beth Heppel doing Beth Heppel things and making it 3-1. And that was it. And yeah, when it comes to Newcastle, Mark, I am on my soapbox a bit because, Sports Wash FC. It's amazed I actually refer to them as Newcastle this time. But I did. There was a post because when Dan Ashworth, he of failing at Man United, was sporting director at Newcastle, he made a big thing of saying how Newcastle women were going to be in the WSL by 2025. So better luck next year, lads. Can you tell? But yeah, it was one of those where Durham just kept doing what Durham do, which is be expected to lose and upset the apple cart. And I think, and Durham doing what Durham did, there were a few spicy tackles that went in. If you look on the highlights, the other Wear-Tyne derby. And it was just good on Durham because they're still hanging around there in that promotion race this late in the season. And
I was going to say, let's have a look.
They're 6 points off, which is a decent gap, but by no means insurmountable. We've seen it all get a bit tight towards the end of the season. Sunderland now 11 points off the promotion race.
Yeah, because Graham's in there. We officially reading Newcastle and Sunderland out. Yeah, I would. Yeah. Unless something goes dramatically wrong.
Newcastle do have 2 games in hand, though. So
they do.
If we assume, which obviously isn't the case with Newcastle, but let's assume for the sake of argument, they win those 2 games in hand. So they are on 29 points, which is 6 points back, which suddenly makes things a little bit more interesting. But realistically, with the way teams take points off each other, I think, Graham, we can rule Newcastle and Sunderland out, and Bristol City are clinging on by their fingernails as well. I think it's now down to that 4 for the promotion race.
Do we know who the games in hand are against? Sorry, do we know those games in hand? Who are they against?
Newcastle.
Yeah,
I believe one is Blackburn. Because Blackburn have had a bunch of games called off.
Yeah.
So I was wondering if it's against the likes of Birmingham or LCL or Charlton, then it will mess up even more.
So Sunderland this weekend. Wait. Then London City, Blackburn, Charlton, Birmingham City.
Yeah, so they've got to play the top 3. So they may be the queen makers of the title race.
Oh, don't tell them that. They've got enough ego already. They may, but I think Becky Langley may not last the season. I think we'll see the Newcastle owners do the whole next season, absolutely going for it. And I think Newcastle out. Durham, they're still hanging around. That's the thing. They can keep picking those points.
They're doing it this season. Yeah, they're picking up those points. They go in. No one expected them, and we certainly didn't after last season to get this far. And yet
they may not go up.
No,
but they'll be there.
They're still in amongst it. They're still in the conversation. So I mean, hey, if they do, that'll be hilarious. Because
that'll ruin Nick. Like Tony says, if Nikki Doucet has a way, Newcastle are up because obviously Nikki Doucet. There's the argument that they want all the recognisable Premier League brands going up, or the rich billionaire teams, because London they think is a new market and it's in London. If Durham go up to the elite, then they will be the proper and glamorous team. And conspiracy theories, they'll suddenly start seeing referees' decisions going against them next season. But
it certainly be an interesting one, to say the least. But yeah, I mean, Durham showing Newcastle that you can throw money at it, a bit like London City, but that doesn't automatically mean that you win, that you will.
They're beating London City at Maiden Castle as well. I think they've now beaten London City and Newcastle. So they've beaten both the new rich kids.
Yeah, and it just shows you that's why we love this league so much, because literally anything can happen. We do have to say though, we need to see more of it, because Graham said championship best league in the world. Yeah, I could only watch the Charlton game on the Bristol City YouTube channel, not the official women's championship channel. So it does lead to more questions about how they're going to market it better as the seasons go on. Is that even a question that they're thinking about?
Because I saw a stat. There's Matty Cutler, who is on with Maggie Murphy, who is the Lewis CEO, or the former Lewis CEO, who's an amazing personage in women's football, and they talk a lot about the development of it. The championship had 43% more fans watch it in the stadiums last season than the WSL. Not last season, last weekend. Than the WSL did. And no buggers reporting it. Well, actually, tell a lie, because there are people. Tom Gary has made a point of reporting it this season.
Yes. Yeah.
And Catherine Batt has done so. Some of the podcasts are doing so.
When it says weekend, are you including the Friday games as well? Because there were less WSL games because of the cup final. So technically, there's only 2 games played on the weekend, on the Saturday and Sunday.
No, the fixtures for last weekend.
Yeah. So there's only 2 WSL fixtures.
Yeah.
So the Friday and Sunday.
But yeah, they were counting the Friday.
All right. So there's 4 WSL games, because the other 2 wouldn't happen because of the cup final. Whereas you got a full championship, so there would mathematically that makes sense that there would be more championships because there's less WSL games.
Oh no. The count was apparently including the Friday games.
Yeah, but I mean, even so, you would still have.
Which surprises me a bit, just because Anfield was a decent crowd at Anfield. So,
but Wharton Hall Park's a small. Oh, go!
There we go. Who thought, Adam? What happened?
City have the lead. They've hit the bar and scrambled it in from the corner. We have a goal. Woo-hoo! We have a goal at Manchester City. The crowd go wild. 60 minutes on the clock. We're just going to see the replay. Might be Miedemar.
Well, apparently it's Mkidama.
Yes.
So we'll win.
We're just waiting for the replay to come through. It was a corner, a bit of a scramble. Looks like I think it's a header off the bar. Here we come. So it's a cross. No, it was a corner. So it's a cross deep. Check over the top. Initial header tipped onto the bar by Hampton. Miedemar volleys in off the crossbar, and it's 1-0 to Manchester City. Just going to see it's a foul with the initial cross. Couldn't quite see got the initial header in, but Miedemar volleys in the rebound. So City have the lead with 30 to go. Is the unbeaten run going to come to an end? Or will City get an own goal and equalise?
I mean, technically it's 120 to go, isn't it?
Well, yeah, but I mean, in this one game, City have not lost any. Chelsea have not lost a game in all competitions this season. So this is they've got 30 minutes to preserve that unbeaten record. But yeah, they could easily just win 3-0 at Stamford Bridge and just steamroll them. So we'll see. But yes.
Yeah. But hey, City with a point to prove. Thank you very much for that one. So yeah, Durham taking 3 points there. We'll come to me next then. That works out quite nicely. This was Birmingham City 2, Southampton 1. The Blues retaining their lead at the top of the table. But just, again, if we get those points back up, 35, London City very close on 32 behind them. Now, this one, it looked to be pretty comfortable for Birmingham. 8 minutes in, the ref awards Birmingham a penalty for a handball of Southampton's Tara Bourne. Simone McGill, or Simone Magic, as I've just realised my notes has autocorrected me too. That's quite a good one. And she was pretty magic because she stepped up to the penalty spot and made it 1-0. Still really weird seeing Emily Van Egmond in a City shirt, by the way, just as a thought. But yeah, so that was for 1-0. Game continued. Birmingham dominating, but it was Shu Yuri who made it 2-0 just after the 30-minute mark. Bex Holloway down the left was able to beat a defender, cross into the box, and Shu Yuri was there to head it home. And it looked like, you know what, let's keep going. Let's just keep scoring. Southampton, however, did find a bit of magic a couple of minutes later. A free kick was taken. It was a very low free kick from Palmer, delivered into the box for Chloe Peplow to flick into the back of the net for 2-1. And this was all in the first half, by the way. Second half, not much really happened. The only real chance came from Birmingham, as Lucy Quinn, as always, fighting through the midfield to finally get a cross in for McGill, but she just couldn't quite get the angle on it, and her header went wide. But yeah, and that was pretty much it, really. So Birmingham had 13 shots, though, only 3 on target. So they could have done a lot more, but they did enough for 3 points. So yes, that was Birmingham 2, Southampton 1. Paul, we're going to come back to you. Sorry, Graham. We're going to talk about the only draw of the weekend. This was Bristol City 1, Charlton 1. Yeah, not one that Ellie Brazil will want to watch back. Talk us through this one, please, Paul.
It wasn't the greatest game in the world. Like, just one where you kind of watched it, and genuinely, I was keeping track of it. It was like, I think it was in our chat, it may have been Danny who said, how has Eddie Brazil scored at the wrong end?
Yeah.
Like, just one of those things where you look and go, is this the kind of game that's stopping Charlton taking a step to the next level? Because if they are seriously wanting to be a promotion team, they have to win games like this. And they always start pretty well the season and then just kind of back off a little. And again, watching this whole thing, Bristol City won battles a lot of the time. And Charlton looked like a team that were kind of coming towards the end of the season and still thought they were heading for the kind of way in to the things, but it was almost like they were on the edge of it and going, we don't really think we can make it.
Yeah, lost a bit of something.
Yeah.
In the way they play. Yeah. I thought that.
And it was a great finish by Ellie Brazil, to be fair. Like, she just kind of somehow managed to flick it off her own head into the back of the net, and Charlton tried to claim it had been cleared off the line as well, and the replay was all a bit chaotic, but eventually found the back of the net and snuck in. And then Katie Bradley keeps finishing as well for Charlton, but again, it's not the greatest of goals. It was a strike from distance, and then it just kind of got a touch on the way in. But it's one of those games where you look at it and go, sorry, Graham, that's the one where that's the type of game where Charlton perhaps are showing their vulnerabilities. And Bristol City, again, I don't know what's been up with them this season, because they came down last season. And it's almost like every team that gets relegated from the WSL has a rebuilding year. Where they kind of sit comfortably mid-table, but never look like they're going back up. And Bristol City have kind of been like that this season. And this game felt like two teams whose season was slowly starting to fizzle out a little. I could be wrong. I hope for Graham's sake I'm wrong. But
yeah, because it's almost as if they're at a stage in the table where they're not really. I mean, Bristol more so could still be pushing, as we said, but really, there isn't something right there to play for, is it? It's not. Promotion isn't in their grasp. It's almost as if we'll still get points, we'll still go for it, but that kind of fire almost maybe is just not quite there.
Like, it's weird. Charlton are still sat third, but they will see this as 2 points dropped. This is 2 vital points dropped, because if they win that, they're still a point behind London City.
Mm.
Now they're 3 points back and 6 points back from Birmingham. And they're not out of the race by any means, but they've made it a lot harder for themselves.
Because, Graham put in there, season-defining game on Sunday, beat Birmingham and Salt to play for, losing its season over. But, I mean, Birmingham's a tough one, though, isn't it? It's going to be incredibly tough. So if they can nick points off Birmingham, that might then alter Birmingham's promotion chances as well, mightn't it? So
If they can nick a point, I don't think they have to beat them. I think nick a point, and it's still interesting.
But then, but no, we'll see. Chris asking, I guess Durham have this weekend off. Let's have a look. Yes, they do. Charlton, Birmingham, Newcastle, Sunderland. Apparently, talking about Real Madrid being a bit uncooperative and not really helping out. Apparently, Newcastle haven't been either. They didn't organise kind of like a safe spot for like a Sunderland meetup with all the fans beforehand. So people have been very like, you're going through Newcastle with your Sunderland colours on, be careful, like cover up just in case, like we don't know what's going to happen. So that hasn't been the best communication either, which I think is quite shocking. Because when Newcastle came to the Stadium of Light, they took over like one corner and kind of made it theirs. And just a bit strange when official clubs can't make like an official meeting place. Because you'd think, again, safety being number one priority. So there we go.
Well, they're in the WSL already, so they're thinking about me. It's probably an annoyance that they have to do this before they inevitably go up to the WSL that they were going to be in by 2025.
Having to perform for the championship just to get those points across. But but as Graham said, a decent point for Charlton in the end. So that ended 1-1. Chloe, we're going to come to you now. Again, another team that could have done more this weekend because it was London City 1, Blackburn 0. Now, we know Blackburn are having a very hit-and-miss season, but London City probably should have scored more than the 1. Take us through this one, please.
Yeah, I mean, looking before the match, you had London City sort of near the top and Blackburn sort of near the bottom, not quite at the bottom. So you would have thought, okay, London City, they're going to probably get a few goals. Easy win, possibly. But nothing's easy in the championship this season. Some teams can take some shock wins and take points off each other. But I mean, really, sort of London City did sort of dominate this game. But Blackburn didn't look like a side really that were near the bottom. They didn't look like they could be sort of easily beaten. It was quite a fast-paced game, to be honest, looking at it, and great sharp passing play from both teams, but sort of the sort of first half really was more sort of London City Lionesses' chances was Sophia Jacobson having a couple of chances, but Alex Brooks, formerly of Manchester City, saving those, and then Chantal Boy-Lorca had a chance as well. Again, saved by Alex Brooks. I think she was the one that really sort of did save Blackburn mostly in the game. She had about 7 saves to make in the whole game, which is that's quite a lot. With Emily Orman for the Lionesses only making 1. So that just shows you how busy Blackburn were, sort of in defence and in the goal, really. But there's not much else that went on. But eventually, London City Lionesses did make the breakthrough about 6 or so minutes from time. They had sort of they tried sort of passing it through, but in the end it was a ball from halfway, sort of playing over the top, which Freya Godfrey got on to, lobbed it over on Rochelle and Alex Brooks, who tried to come out to claim it, but yeah, it just went horribly wrong. So she got lobbed, and then yeah, Mijana Ivanovic was just there to sort of put a simple volley into the goal, and that was it. That was the 3 points secured. So yeah, bit unlucky for Blackburn. Maybe could have got more, but they did well to sort of stay in the game for as long as they did.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Because again, looking at the stats there, I mean, London City had 10 shots, 8 on target, and like you said, 7 huge saves from Brooks there, whereas Blackburn only had 2 shots, 1 on target, and a single corner. So yeah, the stats, if the stats could tell a tale, it definitely should have been a London City win, and they did. They did enough finally to get the 3 points, didn't they? Now, we had some goal excitement. Adam, thank you very much. And then we also had the hand signals to say offside.
That's right, Freya. It is still 1-0 Man City, but Chelsea have had a goal chalked off for offside. It's Mora Ramirez played through, slopped it past the keeper, but was clearly offside. Goal disallowed, and she has since been subbed off. Hamano is on in her place, but we have just under 20 minutes to go. It is still 1-0 to Manchester City. But yeah, Chelsea close to an equalise there, but for an offside flag.
I did wonder what was going on because I'm a few minutes behind.
It was the excitement. Yeah, it always baffles us how people can be watching on the same streams, but then the stream just lags for certain people. It's like, wait,
But
what?
why is he able to say, oh?
Oh, that's why. Yeah. Graham, however, says Ramirez shouldn't be offside. Got to look along the line and stay onside. Yeah, no, absolutely. And there we go. And she's gone off better. Emma says she did go down in some discomfort, so probably best to take her off. Yes, absolutely. Player welfare comes first. Fantastic. Now back to the championship. Paul, I'm going to ask you to talk about this match, but I don't really want you to, because Portsmouth, what on earth happened here? It was 2-1 beating Sunderland, and I just have to say, the team that we thought were definitely gone are now in 9th place, and Sheffield are currently bottom of the table on 6 points. So, yeah, Paul, what on earth happened?
Lovely. Sorry. Well, Sunderland didn't have a very good weekend, did they, really?
No.
I had to get that one in. As a Coventry City fan, I had to get that one in.
No.
But Portsmouth, hello. And it was a game, a fairly even one. The first half was back and forth, and you kind of looked at it and went, is this got a Sunderland goal written all over it at some point? But it's a different Portsmouth.
It is, isn't it?
It's a Portsmouth that believes. And both their goals were pretty, the first one was a decent goal. The first one was Sophie Barker. Let me get this right, because I'm probably going to get it wrong, at this rate. So I'm going to double check. I had all this planned. You see, this is at least I'm watching it knowing what happened. But
so we believe you. It's all good.
It wasn't. See, told you I got it wrong. It was Ava Robotham, wonderfully pronounced as Ava Robotham by the commentator for some reason, who saw a cutback come through on the edge of the area and dispatched it with aplomb. There you go. There's a football phrase for you. Mantle with aplomb, like into the back of the net, past Demi Lamborn, and Lamborn, bless her, died for it, but didn't have much of a chance.
Yeah, she couldn't get there.
Again, 1-0. You think Sunderland are still in this? A bit of a flowing break for Portsmouth. One of those passes played through where 2 people can go for it, and you're kind of sat there watching. As the ball's going, you can see the 2 players going for it. You're like, just please sort this out between you. Please sort it out.
Yeah, one of you shout, please.
One of you shout. Megan Hornby shouted emphatically and then proceeded to dispatch an absolute beauty of a strike. Wasn't quite a thunder bastard, but you know, it was on the edge of it. It was viciously curled into the corner, and I can't use with aplomb again. It's really annoying. I should have saved I should have saved, you know, fascio style mantle. Megan Hornby has taken on the main striker mantle for Portsmouth. She has taken on that mantle with aplomb.
Was it liquid football?
It was. She must have a foot like a traction engine. Like absolutely hit that one. You know, if I'd been commentating, I'd have looked. You know, I'd have been sat there just going, just check the time. It is after 9 o'clock. I'd have gone full partridge. That one was a shit. She must have a foot like a traction engine. Like absolutely walloped that one. I was a bit disappointed another Portsmouth player didn't follow up, because then I could have gone and another as well. And then Katie Watson going through to make things interesting and finishing very well. She's some player, Katie Watson is.
Oh, she's so good.
Like there's this pipeline of young Sunderland players that aren't getting mentioned because, again, Championship. But there's a bunch of them making their way through who are really kind of getting interesting. Katie Watson is one of those who has appeared in the past couple of seasons. And you did wonder if Sunderland were going to get an equaliser. And Portsmouth held on, and you could see what it meant to them. Like Megan Hornby's celebration, I think she started sliding in Portsmouth and finished in Southampton. Like, genuinely, it was a proper joyful knee slide of a celebration while screaming at the fans. And now Portsmouth need to be 4 points clear by the penultimate weekend, because they don't play the last weekend because of the stupidity of fixtures. But I think they can do it.
Well,
looking at their fixtures, and they've got the big South Coast derby next. And I think if they win that, then we're talking Portsmouth's proper run.
Well, that's the thing, because Southampton aren't convincing lately, are they? So, doable. A point,
They're not.
I think, is doable.
They're not. Their challenge is coughing. Their engine is coughing a little, just like I am. And Ash, it's caught the rebound. Yeah, man, in it. Apparently, according to Emma reporting Yamashita Cat.
Yes. So we should just say on that one, as the reason why there was a shocked expression from me, and then about a few minutes later from Chloe, Richard Cannerid cannoned a shot off the crossbar with the keeper beaten. I thought it was going to go top bins, but it's come off the bar, and the rebound, the volley was scuffed, and Yamashita just picked up the rebound. But closest they've come to a goal. 10 minutes left to play, still 1-0 Manchester City, but off an offside goal and off the bar. Chelsea are really pushing for the equaliser now.
Can I just say, if we do a final day watch along,
we need Adam on.
Whatever Adam's doing, he needs to be there. He's full on. We've got to get a link up to him in a stadium, because he can do the full. Oh, it's bedlam here, Freya.
Here from the North Bank, I can't really hear what you're saying.
This goal, it's not large, it's massive. You wouldn't believe it.
Here is Stamford.
I love it.
He can do London City versus Birmingham on the last day of the Championship. Imagine.
And wait for it to be a dull 0-0 draw with both sides scared of conceding that one goal that's going to do them in. So it just plays out into nothingness.
Well, I'm sorry, this game is absolutely Kang average. There you go.
Hey.
Not many lines is fancy.
Oh dear. But I mean, this is why we were talking about the Championship, because literally anything can happen. And as we just said, Portsmouth are now off the bottom of the table. So it will still be, of course, between Portsmouth, Blackburn and Sheffield. because there's no catching up there to Southampton. But yeah, between them, whew, it could go either way. So again, just to go through the weekend's fixtures again. So we've got Blackburn versus Bristol, Southampton versus Portsmouth, that big derby that Paul mentioned just there. London City versus Sheffield, who had a rest week this week. Charlton versus Birmingham City, and Newcastle Sunderland. So there we go. Yeah, I mean, I hope Sunderland can turn it around. Because Newcastle fans, apologies if there's any in the chat, but they're a bit insufferable when they win. So it's just, yeah, Sunderland can just get those 3 points. That'd be great for me, for me personally. Right then, before we go into the WSL, we did want to talk about one more thing from the news this week. If people didn't know, it is Neurodiversity Celebration Week, and BBC Sport have released an interview with Lucy Bronze, and kind of all of us watched it earlier, been like, you know, thank you for giving this a platform. Now, Lucy has talked very openly before about her autism and ADHD diagnosis, but coming to that later in life. And she's also spoken kind of how that's affected her and how sport really helped her, and how initially she just thought she was a bit hyperactive, and sport, because she did so much sport, maybe she didn't really notice as much as she could have because she was always on the go. And I also saw earlier today, the National Autistic Society have announced her as their new ambassador as well. So again, what a fantastic role model for everyone who is neurodiverse. So every interview that happens helps reduce any stigma, raises more awareness. And especially, I don't know if we saw this from the PFA, 60% of players have neurodivergent traits, but they haven't reported them to their club for various reasons. But I know Safia Middleton Patel, who's at United, she said, you know, some clubs think you're too argumentative, that you can't be trained, you can't be managed. So there's still that fear, isn't there, of revealing certain traits. So I'm going to hand over to the people who can talk about this the best, our lovely panel. Because Paul, I know you said it almost brought a tear to your eye reading it earlier, didn't you? So yeah, Paul, do you want to start us off? What does it mean having someone so high profile kind of just talk about it so openly?
I think, well, it's huge because there is still a stigma around being autistic, I think. And there is an issue, particularly with kids. Like, she talks about how as a kid, she was kind of seen as, you know, a bit weird, a bit different. And she never cared about it. But the key thing for me, I mean, I could sit here and talk about it for ages, but the key thing for me is just seeing someone so openly proud of it.
Yeah.
Because as someone who has also been open about being autistic and has had struggles in life because of it, holding down a job, holding down employment, social awkwardness, and all that sort of thing. And I wrote a thing back in 2023, as well, as someone who's autistic, involved in women's football. And obviously, 3 of us on the panel are, about how the me that you see on the podcast is sometimes a performance. Like, there are some days, if I've had a busy day at work, I will come on and it will literally be, okay, I need to get into podcast mode. And it's not masking because it's still me, but it's also hard work because I have no filter, believe it or not. I know I hide it really, really well, everybody. But I have to work very, very hard. One of the things with autistic people that is a bit of a trait is we're very blunt, because our brains don't recognize social norms or can't tell certain things, and that often leads to being called arrogant. It often leads to being called argumentative, like you say, like Safia Middleton Patel has said. And that doesn't go down well in a lot of areas. And just to see someone like Lucy Bronze come out and go, yeah, I'm like this because I'm autistic, especially when she's so popular, and especially when
Yes.
she is such a beloved figure, to actively attribute that to something which a lot of people have previously said as a negative in people, and particularly with some of the conversation at the moment around disabled people and how autism is overdiagnosed and people just fake it and all that sort of stuff. To see someone that beloved come out, and I saw a tweet from someone saying, "Thank you, Lucy. Now I can talk to my. Tell me Lucy Bronze has scored. Tell me Lucy Bronze has scored, because that would be."
No, it is not. Okay, do you want me to go for it? It's 2-0 to Manchester City. It is 2-0. They have got them on the counter, and it might well be Miedema over brace. We're just waiting for the replay. 2 minutes to go. It is 2-0 to Manchester. The unbeaten run is coming to an end. We're just waiting for replay. Miedema had a moment earlier, 1v1 that got saved. He was actually flagged offside with a late offside. It's a ball in the channel. I think it's storm into the box. It's laid across Miedema. Yeah, Miedema again. Miedema over brace. I think Carolyn driving inside. Miedema chops in across the defender, draws it past the keeper. Hampton no chance. Bottom corner, and that could well be that, a 2-0 lead as it stands going into the second leg. And yes, Chelsea's unbeaten run on the cusp of being over. Who would have thought it? After that sub-cup final, but there you go. Miedema off the bench. She didn't start the game, but she was off the bench at half-time, as you mentioned, Freya. And it's 2-0 to City. Who would have thought it?
Bench for the point to prove. Yeah, Simon's not happy. Chloe's about ready to go. No, I'm off. I'm not doing this anymore. Yeah, someone check on Rosie. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Hang on, I'll check on her.
we will. Well, she was shouting about Micah Hamana about 5 minutes ago, so I went and had a bit of a look.
Rosie is also not happy with the commentary. I've just checked the chat. Apparently, Wahhabi is not being pronounced as Wahhabi.
I thought she was criticising my commentary. I thought, I'm terribly sorry.
Not yours. Not yours. Never yours, Adam. Never yours. And apparently, again, I don't know who's commentating now. I haven't been watching it. Apparently, they said Ramirez looks like a mum playing with her kids. An interesting comment to make. Wow. So yeah, if anyone else who's commentating, that would be good.
5 added minutes, and Yamashi just got a hand on the gloves. 5 added minutes for City to hold on to what would be a pretty good result to take back to Stamford Bridge. Just saying.
Yeah, and our Danny in the chat as well just sets things up very nicely for the second leg. Yes, absolutely.
After that excitement,
Lizelle's just come on for City. So there we go.
I kind of feel bad now that I'm going to be like, right, from that, I've had my kind of talk about how amazing it is, but I'm obviously not the only neurodiverse person here. There are 2 others, and I know you had a bunch of stuff, and also I'm an autistic boy. I'm an autistic bloke, and obviously autism is less diagnosed in girls as well. So Lucy Bronze coming out, that could be huge for people like Chloe. And I should have put my hand there so you could have actually seen me do the hand over.
But yeah, Chloe, how big is it as a role model, again, as a female, as Paul said, because autism is so hard to diagnose because girls mask so well. So yeah, what did it mean to you for her to kind of come out and be so proud to be autistic?
Yeah, she's somebody who's got a sort of global profile, really, and so for her to come out and sort of be open about her autism and ADHD is huge, especially for us women, as said, as it's sort of been less diagnosed over the years, although it is sort of on the up now, because it's mainly been based on how the symptoms have been sort of recognised in boys and men. Really, there's not been much sort of information how it presents to women. There is some crossover, but it does present differently in women. So yeah, it's huge. I mean, personally, I'm currently self-diagnosed, but I'm on the waiting list for a professional diagnosis. So I've not yet got that sort of official diagnosis, but I think it was like a few years ago when we come back to be able to watch football after lockdown, where I started noticing things. Like there was one match I went to at Kingsmeadow. I thought, okay, it's gonna be normal, but for some reason the crowds, the noise, and everything just didn't. In the moment, I didn't realise it, but then afterwards, I was like, "Oh, that was." I got all panicky and everything because it was like overstimulated, and then that sort of sent me down a path of looking at the things I'd done in childhood and realised that the things I thought were normal were maybe my norm, but not a sort of a general norm, really. And just yeah. And then also I've got a best friend who they're autistic themselves. They got a diagnosis in lockdown, so being able to talk to them and sort of them saying, "Yeah, I think you might be autistic. You might be good to go for, a diagnosis." And yeah, it's just been sort of years of discovering it. I mean, even now, I'm like, I do certain things. I'm like, oh, okay, that's not that's not the general norm. That's related to this or whatever. Like a huge thing I've noticed at the moment is routines. That I need routines, otherwise things just go completely off. Like that's why, I mean, one example, that's why I go off at 10, because obviously I do have sort of sleep issues, but if I get into a set routine, then that should be better. And sort of one bit I did sort of see in that interview that Lucy mentioned, I went, yeah, that makes sense, is the whole thing about her hyper focusing on football. That's definitely been a thing for me, that I've been so into football over so many years. But then sort of more recently I've been getting into sort of looking at stats and sort of getting into history, and I can spend so many hours and just completely ignore everything and just get into that, and I'm like, oh, okay, that's why. But I'm glad you talked about positives but also negatives, because there is some, like, even being social, going to work, some people are a bit tired, but I sometimes get back just like I have to do nothing because I'm that tired. It's taken so much to be a social sort of person, even just normal work or whatever. Yeah, it's harder, with this to be sort of in and around people, but I do find when I'm sort of with people that are autistic themselves, that I sort of feel more sort of comfortable, more in a safe space. Like even this, I find is a safe space, and yeah, it's just there's so much of that interview. Yet it just really did resonate with me. Just yeah, I'm just glad she came out and felt comfortable to be able to talk about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And Adam, from your perspective as well, I know because you've put so much into doing the history of Arsenal women as well.
Yes.
So I can see you nodding along when Chloe was talking about getting into the stats.
100%.
Focus, yeah.
Yeah, I was saying this on one of our group chats because we're talking about this interview, and I said society would advance so much quicker if you found people with autism, and I should say autism's a spectrum, so it's different for different people. My autism is different to Chloe's, it's different to Paul's. I was luckily diagnosed with high functioning, so I'm on a different side of the spectrum. But if society were to utilize people with autism and utilize their specialist subjects, to use like a mastermind sort of analogy, then you would accelerate so much, because I have so much nonsense in my mind, because I love to accumulate nonsense. I have zero like life skills. I can't boil an egg, but I could tell you all the motorways on the British motorway network, or I can tell you Arsenal football results, because I just love reading about history and I love reading up stats. And why did we not win the Champions League that season? Oh, it's because Wayne Bridge scored at Highbury. It's love going back, that sort of stuff. And it's hyper passionate about the specifics that autistic people have. And I when Lucy Bronze is talking about, oh, I'm so passionate about football, and I think, yes, I get that. We have bizarre passions, but they are really useful if they can be channeled. And there was just so many other things into, like playing with the hair. Yep, I do that. Hyper looking ahead, hyper thinking. I overthink so badly. Like, I'm hopefully talking on here, but like if in my WhatsApp messages, or when I'm talking to people, or if I get told, oh, I'm getting someone's messaging me asking, want to call me about something, I'm thinking about all the possible things that I've done wrong, all the possible bad things are going to, and just like, no, it's probably just a call to say, do you want to pop around tomorrow? But I'm already thinking about all the terrible things that are going to happen, because I just get that anxious. And that is autism. But the key word that I loved that Bron says, she's spot on, she calls it her superpower, because it is a superpower. As neurodivergent, if it's what I was originally diagnosed Asperger's, but I think that's a catch-all pretty much for autism, and obviously ADHD as well, is we have our powers, but we also have our weaknesses. Batman's got bats, Superman's got his kryptonite. And yeah, for me, it's things like social cues. I was in a pub in Madrid and talking with a fan, and it was about having a conversation about Arsenal. And it's about 2 minutes in, I realized I wasn't even looking into his eyes. I can't, when I'm face to face with people, I can't look at them. I end up looking around them, and it's not a rudeness. I just can't do it. And it's only sort of later on I've realized it. And I was fortunate. I was diagnosed when I was very young. I think I was about maybe 10 at the time. It was picked up quite early on in school, because I was pretty smart. I knew my numbers. I was pretty knowledgeable, but I was just very I was always a bit too loud. I was always projecting my voice, and I didn't realize I was doing anything weird. I was just trying to be myself, and I wasn't. And the problem is in a primary school environment, to be different is painful, because the kids at that young age, they want everybody to be like them, and if you are different, you are excluded. They're like antibodies. It's like you become almost like an infection, because you don't cooperate with the norms of the group. I think Paul has said there's a lot of stigma of autism. It comes up in the press a lot, which I really don't like, when something bad happens and they say, oh, this person, he's done this terrible thing and he's got autism. And I'm just thinking, no, there's no, that doesn't, just because you have that,
they're two separate.
It absolutely, and I despise it also when that happens, or when people say, oh, I couldn't help it, I'm autistic. It's like, no, you can. I mean, I had to learn coping mechanisms and strategies so I could integrate myself within the group, and I don't have to learn that I mustn't let my autism gives me so much, but I can't let it control me, and if I can harness it, then I get the best of both worlds, and that's sort of the way I do it. But I also know that autism is different for everybody, and the way I always think about it is if like a beach, and there are some people who their feet are just sort of tickling in the rock pool, and there are some people where the water's sort of around their waist and it's harder for them, and society needs to help those people who struggle more with them. And then there are some people further out to sea, and it's even harder for them. And I consider myself blessed that I have a bit of autism, but it hasn't let me, I haven't got all the features, shall we say. I've got one or two select few. I know there are people who are less fortunate than me, and it's harder day to day to integrate in society, to be social, to be accepted, to be able to express themselves. And I hope this Lucy Bronze interview will open people's minds and treat neurodivergence with the maturity that it deserves, because we are amazing people that can do amazing things. Yes, we're a bit different. We see the world differently. It's like that optical illusion with like, do you see the rabbit or do you see the or do you see the duck? And you will see X and we will see Y. We're not wrong. We just see things different to you, and sometimes that alternative view can be helpful. I think it's great that Lucy's come out. I think, she mentioned she's the ambassador for autism, I believe, as well. So I hope that inspires the next generation and more people to embrace autism is nothing to be feared. It is a blessing. It can be seen as a curse, but if you can harness your autism, the world is a magical place, and only you will experience that, and that for me makes it special.
Oh, I love that. And from the other side of it, in my various roles as teacher, tutor, that kind of thing, I've come across all kinds of pupils, and you just really get to know how, as a person, you can then help other people, and what you can look out for, and how you can, if they, like Paul, like you were saying, sometimes the things come across as harsh. Some people don't take the time to go, okay, well, why was that harsh?
Well,
what was the meaning behind it? Whereas, the more people know about it,
things, and I cannot. My boss says sometimes, Jesus, sometimes I'll want to flip in. I'm like, oh, for Christ's sake, Paul. But then you'll go and do something, and I'll be sat there like, how has he even done that? Like, where's that even come from? And he said, like, watching you talk about football is freaky because you just see a different world to.
Yeah.
I don't know whether you guys have this, but the way I watch football is I've tried to explain it to people for commentary. When I'll watch something and you see patterns of play, and you can kind of predict where the ball's going to go based on like pattern recognition, or where someone's playing, or you'll spot like, oh, Miedemar's dropping deep. That's interesting. She's finding space there. And then there'll be and then she'll score, or she'll set something up, and you'll be like, "Well, I saw that coming because nobody was going with her." And then that's why pundits annoy me. Like, I think that's why pundits annoy me, because football punditry has this way of stating the bloody obvious, like it's actual deep knowledge.
Yeah, need more interpretation, and like actual, like you said, like finding those patterns and finding what's going on.
And I'm like, with stats and things, I love watching tactical analyses where it's like, I loved watching Emma Hayes during the World Cup talking about things like inverted wing backs and stuff like that. And when Jonas Eidevall went past just, oh, this team is, and I love watching Izzy Christensen. I am convinced, and I don't want to do any diagnosis, but I'm convinced Izzy Christensen, if she's not autistic herself, she has an amazing way of talking to people who are, because she just talks about football completely differently.
Yeah.
For me, I will say this. I mean, neurodivergent or not, I say Izzy Christensen, I think, is one of the best pundits on there, and I think she's criminally under coverage. When I've seen her talk about stuff in the Premier League, I think she did an analysis when Arsenal lost 2-1 away at Fulham last season, and she was doing a bit of a talk in the studio, and it was like she was just talking on a really high intellectual level when so many of the male pundits are just so bottom barrel. And just, as you say, Paul, bleeding obvious, just saying, well, they played well, they scored a few goals, and Izzy can get right into the interesting detail, which I think is brilliant. Each what you say you see football, because I've sort of got like a memory thing with like football matches. I always use my past experience of football knowledge and football matches to sort of see the game. So when I see this, when it's like the Real Madrid game when I was at, and I was saying, oh, Arsenal will risk as we could end up losing the game, losing the tie, trying to win it, because I've seen it so many times of teams that they're chasing the game. The game's 120 minutes. If the tie is 120 minutes, 1-0's not too bad, but I just see it happening. I'm thinking, we're overcommitting. It's going to happen, and then the sucker punch happens, and Kel surprise. So that's my way of doing it, is just having remembering a lot of the experiences, and not just with Arsenal but with other teams, and that sort of, because the narratives in football, they do repeat themselves. History doth repeat itself, and that's my sort of knowledge bank, which I think is part of, like I said, my autism, that sort of accumulation of data. As Sherlock once said in his TV series, like his hard drive, it's all in there somewhere.
I love it. And thank you all of you for sharing that, because as someone who obviously doesn't experience it firsthand and has just experienced it through other people through life, it's so interesting to see. And hopefully the more conversations we have about it, the less stigma there will be, the less taboo there will be, and actually we can just get equity across the board, and everyone can be challenged and, pushed to their own strengths, regardless of what they are. And it's definitely not a one size fits all world, is it? So the more we talk about it, the better. And having someone like Lucy Bronze leading the charge is fantastic. So thank you very much. Right then, we'll come on to our last segment, the WSL, of course. Chloe, we'll start with you because it's probably the most boring one of the weekend, to be honest. However, everyone's talking about Fran Kirby. So, yeah, Chloe, talk to us about this one, please. Spurs 0, Brighton 1.
Yeah, I mean, come on. Who else are you going to get to talk about this? But yeah, I mean, she is really the key for Brighton. And when they've been without her, it just hasn't quite clicked, really. But yeah, I mean, both teams have sort of been struggling for form, and Brighton were on quite a sort of wins run before this. So it's going to be sort of a tough game for both. It's really Spurs that started off with a few chances, with Martha Thomas and Olivia Holt having some goes, but then Brighton started to get into the game. You had Rachel McLaughlin, who had a header saved, which was like, oh, okay, maybe something's going to happen here. And then you had Fran, who had a chance outside the box, which, I mean, she's done that before, but yeah, she just kind of went for it. It went over the bar. But yeah, it was they started sort of dominating a bit more, and then obviously a few minutes from half time, we finally got the goal, and the only goal that the whole match had. It was sort of good bit of sort of build up play around the box, and then it sort of came really from deflection. Unfortunate for Ella Morris, who sort of, yeah, I think go watch that. It's a bit of a comical thing. She sort of took the ball to her face, which that's a painful one. Although she did get up pretty much straight away. But yeah, the ball sort of deflected off her, went over to sort of Olive Slagers, who was across. Well, yeah, Olive Slagers, who sort of played it to McLaughlin, who pulled it back for Fran, and one touch to left side of the goal and in. And that was pretty much the first half. Brighton did have a few sort of second half chances. It was mostly them in the second half. Not much else really went on. Spurs did have a chance in the added time with Ella Morris sort of having a go, but again, a shot went too high above the crossbar, and that was about it. Spurs did not have many chances at all, like 0 on target, but 3 overall. But Brighton had about 15 shots with 5 on target, and they had more possession control of the game, and just were able to see the game out and get the 3 points.
Yeah, and it's, I've heard some people say, Spurs aren't really doing anything if Beth England's not on the pitch, and you just think the names in that team, like why is it just not coming together? So yeah, it'd be interesting to see if Villaham is still there at the end of the season, or Spurs still believe in his project that he's always talking about building. But yeah, so looking at the table now, then Brighton still in 5th, Spurs in 7th, and you know what? There's not much of a gap between them, Everton and West Ham coming up very quickly behind them. Perfect. Right. Thank you very much for that one then, Chloe. Adam, we'll come to you because Arsenal on Friday night before the Champions League, they were away to Everton at Walton Hall Park, and it ended 3-1. However, Everton looked probably the strongest coming out of the blocks. It was all about the subs for Arsenal on Friday, wasn't it? Yeah. So what would you make of this one?
I mean, it's the old football analogy, game of two halves and all that. This was a bit of a weird one for me because for two reasons. One, I was covering the Liverpool Man United game, which hopefully we'll get to in a bit, which was very interesting. So I had this very much sort of streaming on the side, which was made worse by the fact that the stream kept failing. I don't know if anybody have experienced this.
Yes.
The
The
stream
first
kept,
ball.
yeah, the screen was pausing, it was dropping out, it was very, very patchy. And, you know, the FA player may be no more for the WSL, but its legacy lives on the YouTube live streams. It's terrible. Yeah, Everton, obviously, I think I really commend the new ownership's come in. They've thrown a bit of money at the team. They've beefed up with some signings, and I think we're starting now to see the Everton maybe we were hoping to see under Brian Sorensen. They can actually field a starting 11, and they gave us a really good game. We did take the lead. I've had to catch the game on the goal on the highlights. Low cross, Russo tucks in, so that was all good. But coming into this game as an Arsenal fan, it was a bit of a sort of hangover from the FA Cup exit. Again, I'm not going to bring up the pitch discourse, but after all that happened with the Liverpool game, and it was a really rotten game, and it was a really rotten way to go out the FA Cup. I mean, it's another like Yuri Hasegawa mentioned earlier, the own goal from the goalkeeper, and she's now out with concussion, sadly. So we had Manu in goal, and we just wanted that rebound win just to get us in a bit of a good vibe before obviously what happened in Madrid. So we got the goal through Russo, but Everton were fair play to them. Got the equaliser. I think it was Tony Payne, and it was a right mess. There was catches noise with the shot from the edge of the box, and Manu's moved to try and save it, but it's canned off. I think it was Catley in the box, and it's gone loose. And Payne's there. Fair play to her. Tucks it away. Keeper's nowhere, and it just sort of because I'm watching. And again, we all know the result, but I don't want to spoil it. But because I'm seeing events are happening at Anfield at the same time, and the kickoffs are askew by about 15 minutes, I'm sort of got my eye on both games, thinking we need, based on what I'm seeing at Anfield, we really need the win here, because this could be a bit where we can get back in, into a prime position in the top 3 race. And then second half, and I said this to a friend of mine, the substitutions you're referring to, I think it was a quadruple substitution. And we've done something similar against West Ham, because we noticed Kyra Cooney-Cross was actually on the bench, and we started with a pivot of Velty and Little. And I was thinking, I wonder if we're going to go full chaos and we're going to bring Kyra off the bench, go Mario Caldente double pivot, and put all our attackers on, basically. And that's what happened. Beth Mead, Caitlin Ford, Stina Blackstenius, Kyra Cooney-Cross, all 4 came on. Mass change of the midfield and the attack, and it just blew Everton away. I think within 2 minutes we got the lead back. Maren Mjelder, sadly put the ball in her own net under pressure from Ford, and after that it was just wave after wave after wave after attack. I mean, Catley hit the post with a header, then she hit the crossbar with a header, and hit the post with a shot. I think earlier in the half, actually, Kelly had there was an own goal that from Kelly Cross that Brosnan. I think Brosnan's one of the most underrated keepers in the league. I think she is brilliant. Really kept Everton. I mean, I call back to the last Everton game I watched live, which was sadly against your beloved Aston Villa. It was only a 1-1 draw because Brosnan kept them in the game for so long. And my gut feeling was I mentioned about experience of past games. It's 2-1. We're missing chances. Brosnan's making saves. We're hitting the post. Steena's missing sitters. There's shots that are going wide. The keeper's making saves. I'm just thinking we're going to get a rug pulled out under us, especially because I know what's happening at Anfield. And then thankfully, with a few minutes left, Russo rounds the keeper, taps into empty net, and we can all just sort of breathe a sigh of relief, because, again, last season, that game ended very badly for us late on. We got the lead, and it was Hobson, I believe it was, with literally the last head of the game, rather, get the equaliser. She became the youngest goal scorer in the WSL, and it was a real sucker punch, and it ultimately was one of the results that cost us the title. So to see us seal the win, and it could have been more. I think Steen had another chance that went wide, and thankfully that didn't become the narrative because we got the win. But it was a crucial win for us. Again, got us back on our winning trend, and because of results elsewhere, because it's been neck and neck between us and Manchester United, we went into the game 3 points behind to get that win, and come back down the M6 with 3 points in the bag. Massive for our European prospects, and 2 goals for Russo, which is I will not complain about whatsoever.
And even better because she's in my fantasy team. Way, she's getting the points. But yeah, I mean, where it leaves you both now, on a good 36 points.
I know.
Yeah, neck and neck for those Champions League positions. And City being on 32, they're still not out of it, are they? It's still very much between those four.
If Gareth Taylor had stayed in charge, I would have backed them to miss out. I mean, his last game, I don't know if we're going to cover the even earlier Chelsea and Man City games that was on your fixture list that were played a few days ago, a bit earlier because of the League Cup.
On the Wednesday, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, it's for the week before. But that obviously, the last WSL game he had, because he did the FA Cup as well, but the last WSL game was that 1-1 draw, which knocked them further down the table. And if Taylor was in charge, I wouldn't back them to climb the table. However, I've just seen them beat Chelsea 2-0 at the academy at the Joy Stadium, and suddenly you're thinking, oh crikey, well they've got Chelsea again at home. Now, again, my experience with double headers are you don't win them all, but this is a unique situation, which this is a quadruple header. So my logic, it flies out the window. Who knows what could happen in that game? I don't think the title. I think title's out of the question. I think Chelsea will ride that out to the end. I think 6 games left, so we've run out of time on that one. I think there's a good chance we can make top 3. Certainly, I think second will be a good one. I mean, but the Manchester United game, that was. I mean, I've got my own opinions on that. I don't know if you want me to segue straight into that, or if Paul wants to have another chat about Mark Skinner on that one. But the Manchester United game, when that the defeat at Liverpool was not surprising the slightest, because that was a result I felt.
I was going to say, would you think that's been a long time coming for United, because they've been just coasting, haven't they?
Well, you mentioned earlier about Chelsea. Chelsea don't play well and they win.
Yeah.
Manchester United can't do that, and the problem I think is Man United have been cruising since the start of the year, and they've been consistent. And to be fair, if you want to get into the top 3 or challenge title, consistency is key. Yeah. But you can't just win and just play average. And the FA Cup. I mean, they progressed even the FA Cup. They've had 3 FA Cup ties against Championship opposition or lower. They've not had a WSL side until the draw, which they got in the semi-finals. So they've had a. No offense to the lower league teams, they've had effectively a bye into the semi-finals. They've had the golden route through, and the opposition they've played. I mean, Manchester City would have been a tough game, except the fact that they were a defensive disaster class, one of the worst I've seen. They had 4 goals gift wrapped to them. This was the first time I felt they were facing a team with a genuine step up in quality, because I think Liverpool have been really good on their new manager. Obviously, not just at the FA Cup, we've seen how good they are, and. I must admit, when I was watching the game, I must confess I was coming off nights throughout the whole week, so I was a bit half tired. And the first 40 minutes of the game, I was really struggling to keep my eyelids open. And then Olivia Smith turned up, and with a goal of supreme individual brilliance. I think she's been their best player this season. I think she's been an absolute find. No offense to Liverpool, I think another team are going to come in for her in the summer, because I just think she's that good. I think I wouldn't surprise me if Chelsea or Man City will just put cash down and say we want her, because she is a really young raw talent. I'd love her at Arsenal. I'd love her running on the wing. I just think she's brilliant, and great goal from her. And then the double sucker punch on the counter, just a majestic goal from, I believe it was Nagano. On the counter, caught Man United completely cold. And the thing is, Man United did nothing. Like, they had possession and dominance, but they had no threat. It was just an empty, hollow performance. And the thing is, they've been winning by default since the start of the year, but simply because the individual quality of the team was better than the opposition they were facing. But Liverpool are a really well-run team. Legacy of Matt Beard's time there. They're really well set up defensively, and Man United couldn't just simply win by default, feed off mistakes, get a bit lucky with the errors. They were having to actually try and work for their dinner, and they didn't. And then obviously Smith gets a penalty. It's 3-1. I know Letizia gets a consolation, but it is nothing more than that. Yeah. And my concern as an Arsenal fan is in his European race has been, Man United are, they've won again. Oh, great. When are they going to finally lose? They have finally lost. And their fixture list right at the end, the last 3 games, as everyone knows, is City, Chelsea, and Arsenal. So my feeling was, if they were going to get a top 3, they would have to be perfect up to those final 3. They haven't been. So now all of a sudden, maybe it's finally going to taper off for them. And I wasn't surprised to see them lose. And it was fair play to Olivia Smith and Liverpool. Really good performance by them. And their manager, they said they were going to make a new appointment in the summer. I think their newest, the assistant coach is making a very strong case to be the manager next season. She's doing pretty good.
Well. Yeah. 100%. And even just the way she was speaking in her post match as well, I caught a bit of it earlier, and she just felt like she was such a part of it already. I know obviously she was working there previously, so but just it'd be nice if that was an option, if she wanted it, if the club wanted it, to continue that. So it feels like a good bond between them.
It's the Rene. I mean, we had it with our one, where our assistant bumped up, but you can always feel. I felt that with Rene when she did her first few press conferences. I was hearing her in her press conferences, and I was thinking, I'm not hearing an assistant manager. I'm hearing a manager. You are a football manager. You're not an assistant coach who mucks on the sideline. I mean, in fairness, Rene, I know we've gone on topic here, but Rene, for example, is a manager because she's been at Rosen. I keep forgetting which one, the Rosengard or Rosenborg. I forget which one, but it's the one that's in the Swedish leagues. I'm sure one of you will correct me on that one, but she is a manager, and we are seeing that. And I think their assistant coach has got similar prospects there. I think she's done a really good job to come in. I thought the sacking of Matt Beard was harsh, but no, Whiteley's done well, and it makes us very scared for this weekend because we've got Liverpool at home again, but this time at Emirates Stadium. And Liverpool have won every time they've come to Emirates Stadium, an aggregate win of 5-0. So we've never beaten Emirates. 2 games, a 4-0 defeat in 2013, if you can imagine such a thing. Wow. And obviously last season we lost 1-0. So big game coming up this weekend.
Yeah, and a massive one, as you said. Let's have a look. So coming up this weekend, then we've got Everton, Crystal Palace. Again, that's going to be interesting. I'll talk about it in a minute, but Palace are very happy with themselves.
I wasn't going to mention that.
I've got to talk about it. I don't want to, but I will. Like you said, Arsenal, Liverpool, West Ham, Spurs. Again, West Ham nicking a point off City. So that was on live when we were talking on the show last week. So again, West Ham will be thinking Spurs look like an easy target at the minute. City, Chelsea again, of course. Leicester, Brighton, and Villa United. Speaking of Villa, let's.
I must admit, when this result came in when people were telling me about this, because I'd written off Palace as like. With Leicester going up the table, I'd written off Palace, a bit like Portsmouth in the Championship. I thought, that's it. They're going down. It's been great knowing you, Palace. I wish you stay up. And suddenly, at the end of the weekend, I'm seeing a point between Villa and Palace. And I'd predicted, I've said this many times before, but when Arsenal lost, when Arsenal beat Villa at Emirates Stadium 4-0, and that's when De Paul was in charge, I said on some other people, I said, if things stay as they are, I would predict Villa be relegated. And then they immediately sacked their manager. So I dismissed that prediction entirely. And now I'm really worried for Villa. I'm really worried for them.
I was going to say, Adam, we must have a crystal ball about relegation.
Clearly.
So on our Villa podcast, we said in December, our lovely friend Emily said, if we've still got 10 points, if we've only got 9-10 points by January, we need to be worried. And we had, what we are now, 9, whatever we were. I think we had like one more point, and we were like, we need to be worried. And in Arroyo's post-match, I think she said something along the lines, it was really hard, it was really windy. They didn't put them in the best place for the post-match. It was something along the lines of, as if, we're finally talking about relegation. And it's like, not being funny, it's March. You've been 4 points clear just by the skin of your teeth. If you've just been talking about relegation now, you've already gone. Like, there's no time. There is no time.
It's like trying to steer away from an iceberg while Celine Dion's warming up in the wings. You know, that lifeboat has sailed.
Jump now while you still can. What a fantastic image. I've just got an image of like Celine Dion at Villa Park now on the top of the Holt End, just like belting it out.
My Holt End will go on.
But how annoying though if Birmingham City come up and Villa go down, we still don't have a Birmingham derby. Like, come on.
Well, we had not since 2021. I would say we had last had a Birmingham derby when we had Villa and Birmingham. Yeah,
because they came up that season, didn't they? Yeah. Yeah. So what, 5 years ish?
Yeah, 21, 21, 22 as well. So yeah, that would be it. 2022 would have been the last one. Yeah.
But yeah, we'll talk about it then, shall we? So everyone knew going into it, Palace were the only ones really where we thought we can get 3 points here. Everyone else is up their game. Obviously, Villa's transfer window was awful. Lost people. We're now, at a net loss of players. So the fact that it's hard to see a way forward because, and I was saying this the other day, because we've had so many managers and so many periods of change, people have brought in players that would suit their style. Because those managers are no longer there, we've essentially got, in the best possible sense, a Franken team of, right, we're brought in these players to do this thing, but we're brought in them to do something slightly different. And it's going to take time, especially for Natalia to come in at this point of the season, to do something with that. And as I've just said, we don't have time. So it's Villa at the minute. We know their quality. We've seen what they can do. Chelsea, start of the season, only lost 1-0. Fantastic. But there's no togetherness. They're all individuals. And it's trying to put them together to make a convincing performance. And that hasn't happened. So it was, not going to lie, it was torture. Watching it live and watching it back, it was horrendous. Now, Natalia, she sounds, if they brought her in the summer, I think she would have done a really good job. Unfortunately, she's having to pick up the slack of what's kind of gone on since. So Villa started pretty well. It looked pretty promising. It looked like they'd been told to just shoot on sight, essentially. But to the point where some of them were like, that's never going to go in. I know you've done it maybe once, but that's never really going to go in. So lots of shot from distances. Again, some more illness than others. Byings has been like the shining light of the midfield. She's been cracking since she's been back from injury. She had a great chance. It was just on the edge of the box, but just went over the crossbar. And you thought, that's going to be our day, isn't it? It's just going to go slightly wide. It's just going to go... it's just not going to go in. And funnily enough, it didn't. Now, it got to, I think it was just after the half an hour mark. And that was when Anik Nguyen, her header, went in, and he just thought, is this the beginning of the end? So that was it. So went, halftime 1-0. You think, okay, we can still come back from this. 1-0. We've done it before. When we met them previously before Christmas, it was a last minute 3-2 win. And you thought, okay, we're heading for that again. Not nice, but it can be done. Now, it was Villa's time to come back to fighting in that second half, but Palace just ramped it up. I mean, Katie Stengel, what a game she had. And with the minutes, they'd found their second. Initially, it looked like Larissé would have found the back of the net after she robbed Lucy Parker, but luckily the ball went just wide. But then it was Ashley Weirden. Again, we've said it all season. She's going to get picked, I think, by a bigger team, because what a talent she is as well. Dangerous all match, and finally got a name on the score sheet, 53rd minute. It was Katie Stengel, actually, who set it all up. Drove through the midfield, threaded the ball through to Weirden, and she was in so much space because the defence did not exist. Just let loose a shot and into the top corner for 2-0. And you thought, right, that mountain's looking a bit steep now to try and come back even for a point. Jordan Nobbs, who started on the bench, don't quite know why, she had come on, again, shot hit off the crossbar, getting closer, some hope restored, but not quite. I'd like to tell you a lovely stat. Guess how many corners Villa had that match?
1.
17. 17.
I was half right. I got one of the digits right.
I was waiting for just what? That was the confident 1. 17.
I thought it was a trick question. I'm always going for the trick question.
But yeah, you'd think, my God, out of 17 corners, something should have gone in.
Well, I can say from experience, because we had this in Madrid, that our game devolved to such an extent that we just pumped crosses into the box continuously. But the problem is, because we've got no height, and nothing happened, but we couldn't do anything else, and so we just, that, and there was I'm taking another tangent, but we had a game, the Liverpool game last season, at Emirates Stadium, we knew in trouble. I think they came to record we did like 36 crosses and nothing, and we didn't head any of them.
Yeah.
And the problem is you're in trouble when you've just resorted to pump crosses in the box and hope, because you have no faith in your build-up play and your attacking. And I'm guessing that's the case with Villa, that the game devolved to that state of kick and hope.
Yeah, kick and hope, bit of desperation sprinkled in there. No, absolutely. There was a moment though, and it'd be interesting for kind of people who were there, people who had other opinions on it. It looked as though Villa had crossed the line, but Lily Woodham was right on the goal line to deflect it as a last-minute clearance. And it wasn't given, but all of them were like, no, it went over. But because there's no goal line technology, we of course can't do it. There is a picture one of the fan club took, and they were right on the corner, and the ball looks over the line, and you're just saying, if that would have stand up in court, that would have been fantastic. But again, another if. Would it have changed the match if it had gone in? Now, Villa then did their usual switching back on at 80 minutes, applying pressure, but of course it was too late. Lucy Parker was getting very frustrated during the match, and it got to the point where she drove forward, and she was like the highest one up the pitch. It's like, you're a centre back. Get back, please. But yeah, she did it. She managed to convert a consolation goal in the 85th minute. And you think, okay, is there a draw from this? Can Villa do it? We saw the late winner at Villa Park, as I mentioned. Is there time? And then the moment that never should have happened. Every single player was up in the box. It was in the final minute of added time. No defenders, no one in sight. Sabs had to run right the way pretty much to the halfway line to be a defender, because there was no one there after a long ball came back for a Palace counter. She gets it at her feet. It's there. Instead of looking before she passed it, she just passed it. And it went right to the feet of Katie Stengel. And she's got a clear goal. There's no one in front of her. It's completely empty. And you just think, oh my God, no, this is not the way it ends. What is this? So Sabs and Maz, who'd come onto the pitch, shout out to Maz, great to see her back, sprinting down after Katie Stengel trying to get it back. And it just, no, there was nothing there. And the ball just rolls into the net. And you just think, what was that? What happened?
Well,
and
as an Arsenal fan, we did did give her to you.
Thanks.
She's got history, because she did this for us against Manchester United at the LSV, when she had a routine clearance and she just air kicked it, and Leah Galton was able to run behind and just tap into the net. And when that happened, her Arsenal career was over. And then, but she was given one more chance, which was the home game against Man United. And although the game had been won, she dropped a cross right onto Garcia's head for a consolation. So I'm sadly not surprised. We love Sabs, but
we love that.
But she's got these mistakes, unfortunately, in her. And this was another one. I haven't seen it back yet, but I've heard horror stories, yours included, and I can imagine what's happened. And sadly, I'm not surprised.
Yeah, and it was because so what usually happens, as you probably know, Sabs loves to come up for a last-minute corner because she's got the pace usually to get back. Unfortunately, it was such an error, and because she then passed it back, Stengel had already had some time on her to get away, and there was just no way to come back in. What I think we just kind of all went, of course, that's how it ended. If it had cost us a point, I think
if it had been 2-1,
different.
Yeah,
but because ultimately it didn't change the outcome, we'd lost. It was just kind of a crap icing on the top of the cake. And it was that moment of, and what's been happening all season with Villa, the rug just gets pulled right out from underneath you as soon as you get a little bit of hope. And Palace are now within 1 point of Villa. And so the safety net of that, 4 points is gone. And honestly, the way Palace are playing, a bit like Portsmouth, they've pulled it out at the 11th hour.
Wow.
And genuinely, I can see them staying up.
This is the weird thing, because they've harshly, you could argue, but they removed their manager. The name escapes me. Was it Kaminsky? Was it or?
Yeah.
Kaminsky, yeah, thank you. And they've got this new chap in. So they're getting that. They're getting that bounce, new manager bounce. They're in the weird situation where the bounce hasn't happened, which is a bit of a rarity. Normally, you get a good run, but I mean, I go back when I watched them against Chelsea at home, and I thought, oh, this Villa team have got a bit of fight about them. They could really do. And then, of course, true Villa fashion, they hit the start button, the most unluckiest of goals, and it's all over again. And being hard luck only stretches so far, sadly. For me, this feels like the best way I can describe it. This feels like their Icarus downfall. Is that they came so close to the sun, and then their feathers burnt off. And now they're spiraling towards the Aegean Sea of relegation, sadly. And they've been up, they've been down. If they do go down, I'm sure they'll come back up again. It just baffles me that this is a team that is loaded with talent names. But I do wonder if like Jordan Nobbs, like brilliant player. Yeah. But she's not the Jordan Nobbs from 10 years ago. She's not the Jordan Nobbs from like the early years of WSL. You've got, Lucy Staniforth. Rachel Daly. Rachel Daly was playing in with WSL in its early years. Is she a high? I know she was a top scorer a few seasons ago, but is she a high level player? I feel there's too many past prime players. You look at that team sheet and you think that looks amazing. Yeah. If that team was playing 5 years ago, I don't think it is now, and that's I think a major problem for Villa.
That's one of the key things. And like we're seeing all of these other teams bringing their youth through. Like Sunderland are doing a fantastic job of doing that. City give their youngsters chances. Whereas Villa, Rachel Maltby was on the team sheet at the weekend and everyone went, yes, finally someone young from the academy. But they're not given a chance to play. So we've got this, as you said, a unique mix of, oh my God, Jordan Nobbs, Rachel Daly, like all of these names. But actually, because of the teams have progressed and bought in, that they physically can't compete in the same way. So they've got their moments. So arguably, Rachel Daly this season is not the Rachel Daly we used to seeing at all. Gabby Nunez was brought in. We still don't really know why, and she hasn't really proven herself either. And you just think, would it not have been better to go for other players who are coming into their prime, again, unknown names pretty much, rather than going for that statement name maybe, but actually it's managing it right, and unfortunately they haven't got it right this season. And
there's also a problem in Villa, which is with the youth players they have got, they've been unable to keep hold of, because didn't Man City pinch one of your players? Was it Brown?
Blinkittle Brown is gone. Liv McLaughlin went up to Rangers. Freya Gregory's now at Newcastle. Georgia Mullet's out at Southampton on loan. Sophia Poo has gone to London City Lionesses on loan.
You've got a mishmash of past established names with no young blood to bleed into the team to give it the energy. So someone in the comments has summed up rather harshly but correctly: retirement home. I mean, the thing was with Brighton, I think I'll do some very similar, because they've got the likes of Frank Kirby in their team and Vicky Lessard and Nikita Paris, but they have got young talent intermixed in there, coming in, and that is giving them the energy. So you've got the balance of experience and energy and potential, whereas Villa are basically a team that's just gassed, and I really worry about them.
I do. And we've got people like Kirsty Hansen and Chastity Grant, and you've got these younger players, but they're either not playing at the same time, or they're playing out of position, or they're playing, and it's just not working. And someone needs to take responsibility. I'm saying higher up in the club, because again, there's been words and whisperings of things aren't all as they seem, shall we say? Allegedly. So it's just not a good place to be in. I think you can see it on the players, like they're frustrated because they know they shouldn't be in this position. No. But then you've got who's actually going to stay if they go on the championship.
I think there will be I think you're going to get a mass turnover of players. That's going to be a really turbulent summer. And the things just to bring back to Arsenal, we've got to come to Villa Park. So I know that you've not got, and you've also got Manchester. I think got Manchester United as well in the in the horizon as well.
United this weekend.
I believe so. That's why it's special mind. So you've got big hitters coming up. You've got Villa. They got us and Man United coming to Villa. We're at Villa Park, I think, for this one. I don't know if Man United are or whether they're going to be at the
So all at Villa Park now.
All at Villa Park.
Wow. Yeah. So coming up, so United away to Liverpool, away to Spurs, home to Arsenal, away to West Ham, and then home to Brighton on the last day.
Brighton, as I mentioned earlier. I mean, you look at that, and I mean, I don't wish to be the grim reaper of doom, but where are you going to get your points?
Literally, where are we going to get the points? Crystal Palace was the last proper shot of we can get some in there.
If you're losing to Palace at home, Palace's home ground. If you're losing away at Palace, you can lose anywhere, and that's the worry, because you're out of all the competition. It's just the WSL now for the rest of the season. There's no other distractions.
So obviously got beaten in the FA Cup.
Man City, Taylor's last game. No, that'd be a shame, because so they've got love for Villa, and very much enjoyed going to Villa Park last season. I don't think I'm going this season. I don't think, but we'll see. But it'll be a shame to lose Aston Villa. So hopefully you chaps can stay out.
Hopefully, I really, really, really do. And I mean, I just hope something turns around, because, like we said, Natalia sounds like she's got a plan. She keeps talking about rebuilding in the summer, and as we've all said, but what if we don't get to the summer? Like, what happens?
Well, it'll be rebuilding in different circumstances. You probably, if it's the summer, you rebuild for championship, and I reckon in that sense, you just go, right, we've gone for down the established name front. Let's mess us up, bin them all off, and go project youth. Just go for young talent. Go for the academy, go for those who have got high potential, and you go into championship and have to ride it again. And hopefully by then the championship will have expanded, and then and so maybe two teams can go up, and you might be a bit easier. And then maybe after that they'll suspend relegation, and then you never have to worry about relegation ever again. So it might, maybe that's the future.
Perfect. So really, this is the good time to kind of rest, reset, go back to basics, and start again.
How many points do you think teams will need to stay up this season?
15 is usually the batting average, isn't it? That's usually the thing. But if you look at the look at the table now,
because if it's the batting average there, then Villa need 5 points from 7 games.
It's 6 games left. So 6 games left to play for everyone now. So I just think Palace might just pick up enough form to do it. That's the thing.
And that's the thing. Palace have never looked out of it, and we all said at the beginning, wouldn't it be great if Palace stayed up?
But now it's
you're up and down.
That's what you wish for.
It's the I've won, but at what cost?
When
it was
Leicester, then it was fine. That was it. Yeah.
Do you think
Leicester, West Ham? I'd have happily seen West Ham go down. I'd have happily seen Leicester go down. Someone has to, sadly. Someone has to go for that trapdoor.
Hence why I am claret, but mainly blue. Paul, what were you going to say there?
I was going to say, I still think Villa can stay up, because I think Spurs are limping to the end of the season. So I think.
Are you suggesting? Hang on, whoa. Are you suggesting that Spurs could get relegated? Because I've got some snake oil I'd like to say.
I'm not suggesting Spurs could get relegated. I'm suggesting Villa still need to play them so could get 3 of the points that they needed.
Maybe
from that game.
That would be nice, wouldn't
it? It would be nice. I mean, you mentioned it earlier. The Spurs team are flatlining badly. Beth Fingers obviously being in absence, but it's a real rebound from last season. But they do ping pong. They go great naff, and then they mix up the manager, and it keeps going. And
I think they're getting 3 points against Man United.
You think they're going to beat Man United?
I think they're going to beat Man United.
When do they play? When do Spurs play Man United?
No, Villa. I think Villa.
Oh, right. I was going to say,
Villa Man United. I would love that. That'd be great.
But that's just because you want to stick the boot into Mark Skinner afterwards.
And justice for Kirsty Hansen, who got a red card last time in the meetup.
But also, I think that Villa are the type of team who will this sounds really, really harsh on Villa, but they will force Man United to play down to their level. And Man United, when they are, God knows, Man United don't need any encouragement to play frigging boring football, but like you say, Man United versus Liverpool, they just didn't turn up. And I think,
they dominated possession, but had no threat and attack. It was just nothing, and then Liverpool, counterpunch. If Villa could do that, if Villa were defensively secure, that's what. If you've got to be defensively competent, that's what you've got to be. If you're defensively competent, you just say, "Man, out you have the ball, and we're going to sit deep and do low block, and then have Kirsty Hansen and Rachel Day on the counter bombing on. Then you can get at them." It is that simple. You just got to make sure there's no defensive errors, which again is the point. But I do wonder if Villa wake up to his relegation fight and that becomes momentum and they show some real fighting spirit, which I have seen from them without getting the results, that might work in their favour. Their fight and drive to stay up might counter Man United's ambitions for Europe. Something to look out for.
Yeah, I hope so. Let's stay with that, shall we? Let's stay with that positivity. And as a thank you for everyone who's watching and listening, still to this point, we are nearly finished. We promise. I did promise you another little teaser of our interview. This time, we are going to be hearing a snippet from lead actor Leah Harvey of Soldiers United. So if you missed it the first time, here we go. Here's another little clip of our interview coming up.
Welcome to Soldiers United.
Some wonderful football here from the Solars. Yeah, if they carry on like this, they might actually win a match.
The council's closing our pitch.
What? They can't do that. What?
They said we got a month.
I just don't want this to end, Lily. Coach, how do you know when it's time to let go?
We come to no matter the weather, we score.
We don't want to lose our pitch.
No.
So we'll raise the money.
Yeah, I probably didn't need to stand up for that, did I?
So joining us today, we've got Sarah Herrick, who's the writer and producer of the film, and Leah Harvey, who's one of the lead actors. Welcome both.
But how lovely would it be for, the big stage that is the Euros to also shine a light on the stage, which is grassroots football, and to have them be sharing that kind of attention and celebration and joy together at the same time. And it feels like with this film, a lot of the timing has just been so serendipitous, like it's there's something about it where everything that happened, even if it was a negative thing, gave way to a really positive thing.
So yeah, it was fantastic to talk to them both. And if you did miss the introduction earlier, Soldiers United is a film that's debuting actually very, very soon. I think it's next week. They've got their film premiere. And it's about a grassroots women's football team that we probably all know very, very well, who are struggling to save their pitch. So Sarah Herrick, who wrote and produced it, she really wanted to bring to life what grassroots football, the reality really is. So all of those personal relationships on and off the pitch, and how ultimately it's a fantastic community for everyone to come together and celebrate football. So we talked about the production process, how the casting came about the characters, we're talking about it being the first since Bender like Beckham, but also the impact of like the Lionesses, the Euros coming up, and how ultimately it's about people not just supporting the bigger teams, but actually going out into their community, being a part of their community. And even if you don't want to play the football, going out and supporting as much as you possibly can, because these grassroots, these are where our legends start. So that's going to be coming up. That interview is going to be coming out at 5:00 on Friday. And we'll be keeping you up to date across our socials as well about any further updates we get from the film.
One of the questions you asked them is why in these films grassroots football teams with like 5 people watching always have their games broadcast? Like, because they always have
brilliant.
they always have commentators to kind of frame the story, which is fair enough. But they never mention in the plot holes why this small grassroots team has like a broadcast deal. It's like,
yeah, it's from what we've gathered, again, because we've seen a short version, which has been amazing, and yeah, so the commentators that we see there is very much local radio, very much kind of that London based, like proper grassroots. So yeah, but no, you're right. When you see it usually and it's no one there, it's like, we can barely get media at Birmingham City when I was the only person there, never mind right the way lower down. But yeah, it's a fantastic film highlighting women's football. So yeah, we just wanted to give it a massive shout out, and hopefully everyone will go and search it. So they are Solas United on Instagram, and to follow all updates from there. But yeah, it looks like a fantastic project, and hopefully there might even be more to come from that project too, which is really, really exciting. But yeah, me and Sam had a lot of fun doing that last week. So yeah, thank you very much for watching that, everyone. Now, I believe I've come to everything I wanted to talk about. Are there any last bits anyone else wanted to shout before we go? Have I missed anything?
I was going to mention our unofficial MLS, USL 2 team, who are in action.
Oh yeah,
Birmingham Legion. They are playing in the US Open Cup.
the Birmingham Legion.
Is it the Birmingham Legion? Let me double check. Birmingham, Alabama, of course. And I'm now sat here desperately trying to check that it was the Birmingham Legion, because it's one of those fun things where their website doesn't actually say who they're playing.
Oh.
Which is fun. It's like
it's also up there with the ones that say match results will be posted after full time. It's like, well, that's not helpful if I'm trying to follow along.
Because it just says to be determined in the preseason matches, but they're playing the US Open Cup, and some of the team names are amazing. The Denton Diablos.
Denton Diablos.
The Little Rangers are playing. McKinney Chupacabras. There you go. That's so fun to say. So for those of you who are unaware, that was Zach, who is often in the chat, who actually is he's involved with the Little Rock Rangers. So we've kind of adopted them. They play at USL 2, which is like League One of the US men's system, and they're in the Open Cup, which is the US FA Cup.
Yeah.
So go Little Rock.
Right. Go Little Rock. Yeah, I know. We need some merch, but I think we looked into it, but the shipping just wasn't possible, was it?
Was it like the shipping was almost as expensive as the actual shirts?
As the actual stuff, yeah, absolutely. So yeah, we will be here in spirit, and we will get those updates there. The final thing, I do promise is the final thing that we want to talk about. At the Sub Cup at the weekend, there were a lot of protesters who thought it was appropriate to make the Women's League Cup final into something that is really not. So we won't go too much into it because that's exactly what these kind of people want. But essentially what they did, they rocked up at the final with horrendous, transphobic, racist, awful banners, apparently all in the name of protecting women's sport. Now, they used an athlete who doesn't even play in this country, who wasn't playing in the match, and it was just completely over the top irrelevant to try and spread some hate. So, to everyone who is a fantastically positive part of this community, and as we've seen with Solas United, it is about those friendships, chosen families at some point, of all these people who can come together and celebrate the sport for what it is, and that is inclusivity and diversity. So to anyone who is out there trying to spread hate, we are here to support everyone involved in women's football, especially biological women who are part of the sport, and just because they don't conform to what you think a woman should look like or act like, it doesn't mean that it's anything bloody to do with you. Okay, so we just wanted to put that down. Yeah, Cole, go on.
And by the way, dickheads, if you're gonna prove this point and protect women's football, turn up to the game. Don't turn up to protest and then post it in the bloody pub.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, was a Green King pub, which has made a huge point of allowing its staff to identify however they wish.
Yeah.
So basically, you turned up, you did a protest about a player who wasn't even there, who was a biological woman, by the way, who you encouraged anti-trans hate for. Then you didn't go and watch the game, and you turned up in a pub that made a point of being welcome to trans people anyway. So you're a bunch of twats.
Yeah.
Basically.
I had my own dealing with them because I made the mistake on Twitter on telling them where to stick it, and
they turn up in your mentions, don't they?
They did. Way, yeah. I mean, I turned off it was all quote tweets, and I was thinking, oh, this must be what Paul feels like when he steps over the line. This is it was a strange situation. I had to go into private. It was awful. Awful, wretched people. But the problem is with the way that social media is and the people who lead it and the kind of views that are encouraged to be circulated, it does lead to these people thinking that this is right, and they just believe in conspiracy theories and nonsense and lies. There was somebody making a comparison to Myra Ramirez and trying to suggest that, and it was like, this is utter nonsense. And then some of the weirdest of justifications to justify their stance. The most bonkers one was someone was saying, yeah, but Adam, what if someone was pretending to be autistic? I'm thinking, what is this myth that like men are trying to secretly infiltrate women's football and do you understand the journey that one goes through as a trans? I can't. Obviously, as a straight man, I could not possibly know the hardships one goes through to be, to go to transgender. But I have a friend Lucy, great friend of mine, she's been on that journey to be the woman she is. And it's like, you don't do that. You don't do it on a whim. You do that because you look in the mirror and you see somebody else. You're given a name that is not your own. You have to live. I mean, me and Paul have spoken before or earlier in this pod about the struggles of being autistic, and having to sort of struggle in society because we see the world differently. But that's nothing compared to people of trans who their own body is not their own. It is another body, and it doesn't match who they are, and they get no respect for it whatsoever. They are treated with condemnation, as treated as just odd. Again, it's being different. It's being different and not conforming to the societal norms of you're a man and you're a woman and there are no gray areas. There is nothing, and anything else is just nonsense, which is just not true. Just as autism is a spectrum, this is a spectrum as well as life. We are not binary. We are not yes and no. We're not male. That's not true. And fortunately, the younger generation coming through are breaking down the boundaries. We are being more tolerant. We're being more accepting, and the older generation don't like it because they have lived off the fact of white privilege, of being able to simply live off the fact of the aces that they were born with. And they are depreciating in value, and now they don't like it, and they don't like the idea of this younger generation of tolerance and acceptance and these other views coming through. And you're seeing that play out in these awful protests outside the stadium. And I'm really glad it got the backlash it warrants. And one of the things I've learned and embraced joining Big Old Wheels Football is its embrace of diversity. It doesn't matter who you are, it doesn't matter who you love, it doesn't matter who you are as a person and who you believe. You are welcomed in this group, and such nonsense will not be tolerated. And quite frankly, you can take a protest and stick it up somewhere else.
No, and that's perfectly said. Absolutely. Women's football did not fight for so many years to have someone stand with a banner and been like, this is for no, women come in all shapes and sizes. And you cannot go, well, you're a woman because I think you're a woman, but you're not because you do. That's not how this works. And it certainly won't be tolerated, as you said. And all of women's football social media, luckily, can shout just as loud, if not louder, at these horrendous people. So we just wanted to give that shout out to say that will not be tolerated. And their little band of 10 of them, going to the pub after celebrating a job well done or something. And it's like, you wouldn't know what a job well done looked like if it smacked you in the face.
Well,
So
I actually ran into them. And
do you reverse back over as well?
Well, this is the thing, because you have to be really careful with them, because if you actually say what you want to say to them, especially with me as a cis man, claims about all sorts of stuff will be made. So they were sat there like, oh, you're going to the game? Yeah. Oh, you're a man, you like women's football? Yes. Do you think men should be involved in women's football? Well, yeah, because I'm watching them. Do you think they should be involved in playing it? They're not. Well, they are. No, those are women. Oh, so you believe men should be involved in women's football? No, but they're not. Yeah, because trans women are women. No, please fuck off.
Yeah, it's because they. Yeah, this is the thing. It's when their world is going, and they don't want to embrace change. They want to cling to their world and not allow it to be changed because it's and that's what we're seeing. And it's not up to me to say if you're a woman. It's the woman that says if they're a woman, and likewise it's the man. Yeah, society doesn't tell you who you are. You do, and that only you know that, and everything else is irrelevant. And it shouldn't be that other people tell you who you are, because that's just wrong. You are who you are.
I will say this. I know we don't want to take it. It's very weird. All I'm saying, it's very weird that all these evil misogynist men don't see the need to turn around and protect men from trans men, because we're not threatened by them. We're not threatened by them existing.
Yeah.
Again, it's a double standard. They believe one thing because it's very convenient for them.
Yeah.
And their horrendous views. But as we said earlier, we won't stand for it. No one else in the women's football world will. And we'll keep shouting about it until these people see sense, which is probably never. But we're gonna hope that day comes. So yeah, what a better note to end it on, that we are fighting the bigots one day at a time. Now, of course, we know most of you already do because you're wonderful. But if you would like to hear more from us, remember we've got the Premier League show on a Tuesday at 8:30. We're always here on a Wednesday at 8:30, and Lower League is on a Thursday too. So you can follow us on the following. So on Twitter, we are at Absolute Ball Pod, YouTube, Absolute Football Podcast, and same on Twitch, TikTok, Absolute Football Pod, Instagram, Absolute Football Podcast with an underscore. Blue Sky, it's lovely over there. Come and join us at Absolute Football. And on Facebook, the Absolute Football Podcast as well. Award-winning, don't you know? Now, we've come to the end. We've covered so much. So thank you, everyone who's still watching and listening. But Adam, it's been a pleasure having you back, sir. Thank you. Where can people find more of you if you'd like them to, of course?
I mean, if you'd really like to, I'd be honoured. I fear I would disappoint, but you can find me at Adam either underscore or dash Salter4 on Blue Sky and Twitter and Instagram. So yeah, I've searched around for that. And if you want to follow all things old Arsenal women, I'm running the Arsenal Women Archive. So plenty of old Arsenal women's games, from the mid 90s, 2000s, and old WSL stuff. That's on YouTube and Blue Sky and Twitter, so you can find that there. And yeah, you'll find me posting all sorts of historical nonsense and facts and statistics and stuff. So do keep an eye out, because there's more history stuff potentially around the corner. So do stay tuned.
Fantastic. And I have to admit, seeing all of it pop up, it's so brilliant to see it, that it has been, archived and put safe in some way, because so much has been lost or forgotten about, hasn't it? So yeah, it's been a pleasure. Paul, as always, thank you very much. Where can people find more of you, please?
You can find me, if I use the right finger, with at Paul W Radio, and then you stick the little blue sky at social thing on it. And I will say thank you, Adam, for pointing out, for going straight to Man United versus Liverpool and not giving me the chance to rant about Mark Skinner, because we still would have been here.
I know. I thought I'd just get it going. Just get.
But he knows. You see,
Straight
he knows already.
It's all right, Paul, because when they lose to Villa, you can go for him.
I'm already ready. I'm sat here ready.
I'll just tee you up for that one. Yes, thank you both. And if you do want to find more of me, I'm at 2 Rights, or finally getting the 115 yards back up and going. So a lot of articles dropping on that website, and I might be cooking up something very interesting there as well, podcast-wise. So yeah, thank you very much, everyone. I'll be back next Wednesday as usual. Thank you, good evening, and goodbye. Thank you.